The Fermi Paradox asks a simple question. If aliens exist, why haven't we seen any? Given the vast number of stars and planets in the universe, it seems logical that intelligent life should be out there. The problem is, we haven't found any solid evidence. Scientists search for signals, scan the skies, and explore space, yet the silence remains. This contradiction between expectation and reality is what makes the Fermi Paradox so puzzling. To understand the scale of this mystery, consider the sheer number of planets. I'd love to invite you to share in the comments where you're listening from and what time it is. It's incredible to think about how we're all connected through these stories and ideas. If you enjoy these thought-provoking explorations, consider subscribing to Tired Thinker so we can keep bringing you reflective narratives. Now, settle in, get comfortable, and let your imagination drift as we delve into the mind-boggling paradoxes and mysteries. The Milky Way alone has about 100 billion stars. Many of these stars have planets, and some of those planets sit in the habitable zone, where conditions could support life. With such high numbers, even if life is rare, there should still be thousands or even millions of civilizations. If that's the case, at least one of them should have made contact by now. Yet, as far as we can tell, no one has. Some argue that life is common, but intelligent life is rare. Simple organisms like bacteria might form easily, but complex life could be much harder to develop. Earth has existed for over 4 billion years, and for most of that time, only microbes lived here. It took billions of years for anything more advanced to evolve. Even then, intelligent life only appeared recently. If this process requires very specific conditions, then intelligent civilizations might be extremely rare. Another possibility is that intelligent life is common, but most civilizations don't last long. Technology brings great power, but also great risk. A species that discovers nuclear weapons or artificial intelligence might not survive its own inventions. If most civilizations destroy themselves before they can explore the stars, then it makes sense that we wouldn't hear from them. This idea, sometimes called the Great Filter, suggests that somewhere along the path from simple life to interstellar civilization, something usually goes wrong. Some suggest that advanced civilizations are out there, but they choose to remain silent. The zoo hypothesis proposes that aliens watch us but avoid contact, much like how humans observe animals in the wild without disturbing them. Another idea, the dark forest hypothesis, suggests that space is a dangerous place where civilizations hide to avoid being attacked. If an advanced species sees any sign of another civilization, it might destroy it before it becomes a threat. In this case, silence isn't a mystery, it's survival. Another reason we might not detect aliens is that we're looking the wrong way. Most of our searches focus on radio signals because that's how humans first communicated over long distances. But advanced civilizations might use completely different methods. They might communicate through quantum signals, neutrinos, or something we haven't even imagined. If they do, we wouldn't recognize their messages even if they were right in front of us. There's also the possibility that aliens exist but are too far away. Space is vast, and even light takes years to travel between stars. If a civilization is thousands of light years away, their signals might not have reached us yet. Even if they did, we might not notice because we've only been listening for a short time. Human technology for detecting alien signals has only existed for about a century. In cosmic terms, that's the blink of an eye. If a civilization sent a message 200 years ago, we wouldn't have been able to hear it. Some think aliens have already visited, but we missed them. Earth is 4.5 billion years old, and recorded human history only covers a tiny fraction of that time. If a civilization visited millions of years ago, there would be no record of it. Even if they came recently, they might not have left evidence. A brief visit could go unnoticed, especially if they didn't land or communicate openly. Others suggest that life is far stranger than we expect. We assume aliens would be carbon-based, need water, and live on planets. But what if they exist in forms we can't detect? They might live in extreme environments, deep in gas giants, or even in space itself. They could be based on silicon, plasma, or something beyond our understanding. If so, they might not recognize us as intelligent, or we might not recognize them. Some believe we are the first. Intelligent life has to start somewhere. and maybe it started with us. The universe is old, but conditions for life might not have been right until recently. If intelligent civilizations are just beginning to emerge, it would make sense that we haven't heard from any yet. We might be at the start of a long journey where future generations will be the ones to make contact. A more unsettling idea is that we live in a simulation. If our reality is artificial, then whoever created it might have programmed it to exclude aliens. In this case, the reason we don't find extraterrestrial life is because it was never part of the design. This idea is difficult to prove, but it offers an explanation that fits the evidence. Ultimately, the Fermi Paradox remains a mystery. Each possible answer leads to more questions. If life is rare, why did it happen here? If civilizations destroy themselves, how have we survived so far? If aliens are hiding, what are they afraid of? Every time we think we have an answer, new possibilities emerge. Scientists continue to search. Missions explore Mars and the outer planets, looking for signs of past or present life. Telescopes scan exoplanets for conditions that might support life. The search for extraterrestrial intelligence listens for signals, hoping to catch even the faintest whisper from another world. So far, we've found nothing. But that doesn't mean the answer isn't out there. It might just take more time, better technology, or a different way of looking at the universe. Until then, we keep listening, wondering, and asking the same question. Where is everyone? The universe is vast. It stretches beyond what we can measure, filled with billions of stars and even more planets. Many of these planets should have the right conditions for life. Some should have intelligent beings capable of building technology. Given how old the universe is, it seems likely that at least one civilization would have advanced enough to communicate or even travel between the stars. And yet, we hear nothing. We see no signs. The silence is absolute. This is the Great Silence. Radio telescopes scan the sky, listening for signals that could come from distant civilizations. Decades have passed since scientists first pointed antennas at the stars. They have heard nothing that suggests intelligent life. There are natural signals, bursts of radio waves from pulsars and quasars, but no structured messages, no patterns, no sign that someone, somewhere is speaking. Scientists have sent messages as well. In 1974, the Arecibo telescope broadcast a simple radio message into space. It carried basic information about humanity, numbers, shapes, and a rough diagram of a human figure. If an intelligent species receives it, they might recognize it as a message. But the message will take thousands of years to reach its target. If someone replies, the wait could be even longer. This kind of communication is slow, but if a civilization has existed for millions of years, they should have sent similar messages long before we did. We should be hearing them now. We do not. Perhaps civilizations avoid broadcasting. Maybe it is dangerous. If the universe holds aggressive species, revealing one's location might be a fatal mistake. A species that stays quiet survives. But this idea assumes that all advanced civilizations think the same way. Out of the possible billions of civilizations, at least one should have decided that the risk was worth it. Even if most species stay quiet, it only takes one to break the silence. The silence remains unbroken. Some suggest that intelligent life is rare. The universe may be filled with bacteria, but not with thinking beings. Evolution is unpredictable. On Earth, it took billions of years for complex life to emerge. Dinosaurs ruled for millions of years without developing technology. Intelligence is not guaranteed. If intelligence is uncommon, we might be alone, or nearly so. This would explain the silence, but it is difficult to prove. We have only one example of intelligent life, ourselves. We do not know how common or rare we are. Perhaps civilizations do not last. They may destroy themselves before they reach the stars. Nuclear war, environmental collapse, or artificial intelligence could end a civilization before it spreads. If this is true, there might have been many civilizations before us, each blinking out before they made themselves known. The universe could be filled with the ruins of those who came before. But we do not see ruins. We do not find old probes drifting in the void. No signs of past travelers. If civilizations have ended, they have left nothing behind. Some believe that aliens might not use radio waves. A species more advanced than us could use technology we do not understand. They might communicate in ways beyond our detection. If we are listening with the wrong tools, we will hear nothing. But even if this is true, we should still see signs. A growing civilization changes its environment. It builds cities, spreads across planets, constructs massive structures. We should see energy use on a grand scale. We do not. It is possible that civilizations exist, but choose isolation. They may have everything they need on their home planets. If a species perfects virtual reality or achieves immortality, they might lose interest in exploration. They would have no reason to leave their world. But it takes only one civilization with curiosity to break the silence. If even one species wanted to explore, we should have seen them by now. Perhaps we are not listening in the right way. The universe is old, and civilizations could rise and fall over millions of years. If a civilization sent signals 1,000,000 years ago, but we only started listening recently, we might have missed them. Maybe they are sending messages now, but we do not recognize them as artificial. Our understanding of communication is based on human experience. Aliens could use methods we do not expect. We might be looking right at the evidence and not know it. Another possibility is that we live in a cosmic wilderness. If the universe is mostly empty, civilizations could be so far apart that they will never find one another. The distances between stars are vast. Even if a species sends probes, it may take millions of years for them to reach another inhabited planet. In this case, the silence is not true silence. It is simply a matter of scale. The universe may be filled with life, but spread so thin that we do not meet. Some have proposed that we are the first. Intelligent life has to start somewhere. If no other species has yet reached the point of interstellar travel, we might be the pioneers. In this case, the silence is temporary. One day, we might be the ones to break it. There is also the unsettling idea that we are not alone but are being ignored. A more advanced civilization could choose not to contact us. They may be watching, studying, waiting. If they are billions of years ahead of us, they might see us as primitive. They could have rules against interference, much like we have rules against disrupting untouched ecosystems. This idea, called the zoo hypothesis, suggests that we are in a kind of galactic nature preserve. If true, we will not hear from them until they decide we are ready. And yet, silence remains silence. Every new radio scan brings hope that something will break through. Every new telescope promises a clearer view. Scientists continue to search, continue to listen, continue to wonder. The great silence is not just about the absence of signals. It is about the absence of answers. It forces us to ask what it means to be alone. It challenges our assumptions about life, intelligence, and the nature of the universe. We do not know how long the silence will last. Maybe tomorrow, a signal will arrive. Maybe in 100 years, we will uncover ruins on another planet. Or maybe, despite all the stars and all the worlds, we will find nothing. The silence is a question, and for now, the universe does not answer. Imagine walking through a dense forest and coming across a group of animals. You stop to observe them, but you stay hidden. You don't want to interfere with their natural behavior. If you step into their space, they might react in ways that alter what makes them interesting to watch. Some might flee. Others might become aggressive. A few might even try to approach you, not knowing whether you are friend or foe. Instead of taking the risk, you keep your distance, studying them from the shadows. Now imagine that we are the animals in the forest, and the observers are intelligent extraterrestrial beings. This is the idea behind the zoo hypothesis. It suggests that aliens may be aware of us but have chosen to avoid direct contact. We may be under observation, like animals in a preserve, unaware of the full extent of what exists beyond our immediate environment. One reason aliens might avoid us is to prevent disrupting our development. If a highly advanced civilization introduced itself to a less developed species, the results could be unpredictable. It could lead to rapid technological advancement, but it could also cause panic, confusion, or even the collapse of social structures. If we were suddenly given knowledge that invalidated much of what we believed, how would we react? Some might embrace it, others might resist it, rejecting even the evidence placed before them. Entire cultures might struggle to adapt to the new reality. Rather than risk this, a more advanced civilization could decide that the best course of action is to observe from a distance. Another possible reason is that we may not yet be interesting enough. In nature, humans study species based on curiosity, but our focus often leans toward those that display intelligence or unusual behaviors. We tag whales, track the migration of birds, and study primates that use tools. But for countless other creatures, we pay little attention. We may assume that if intelligent life exists, it would automatically want to reach out to us. But that assumption comes from our own limited perspective. A vastly superior species might not see us as particularly special. To them, we might be at a stage of development that is neither remarkable nor worth interfering with. They could be waiting to see if we reach a certain threshold of intelligence or technology before making contact. Consider how we interact with remote tribes on Earth. Some isolated human populations exist with little to no contact with modern civilization. Anthropologists often choose to observe rather than engage, understanding that interference could alter their way of life in unpredictable ways. If we as humans can recognize the importance of non-interference when dealing with less advanced cultures, why wouldn't a highly advanced alien species take the same approach with us? There is also the possibility that aliens see us as a controlled experiment. Scientists often set up conditions to study how organisms behave in different environments. If extraterrestrials have been observing Earth for a long time, they might see humanity as part of a long-term study. They could be tracking our social, technological, and biological evolution, gathering data on how civilizations emerge and change over time. If they introduce themselves too soon, they risk disrupting the natural course of that process. They may have observed other civilizations before us, each following its own path, and they might see value in letting us develop independently. Another scenario is that there is a broader rule in place, one that prevents direct contact between civilizations at a certain level of advancement. If multiple alien species exist and interact with one another, they may have agreed upon a form of non-interference, similar to a universal law. This could be an ethical stance, or it might be a strategic decision to prevent conflict. If civilizations interfere with developing species, it could create instability. A universal agreement to observe rather than engage could be the most logical way to maintain balance. It's also possible that we are simply not looking in the right way. If aliens are deliberately avoiding direct contact, they might also be taking steps to remain hidden. They may use technology that prevents detection, just as a researcher in the wild might wear camouflage to avoid disturbing the animals they are studying. We search for signals, radio waves, and visible signs of life, but an advanced civilization may communicate in ways beyond our current understanding. If they exist in a way that does not rely on physical structures or radio signals, we may be missing the signs entirely. The zoo hypothesis raises difficult questions about our place in the universe. If we are being watched, does that mean we will never be allowed to join a broader cosmic community? Or is there a moment when we will be invited in? Perhaps there is a test we must pass, technological, ethical, or philosophical, before we are deemed ready for contact. Maybe we must first prove that we can exist peacefully among ourselves before being introduced to others. If this is the case, then our actions as a species may determine whether or not we ever move beyond our current isolation. There is no definitive way to prove or disprove the zoo hypothesis, but its implications are profound. If aliens are observing us, it means they have already achieved a level of intelligence and technological mastery beyond our own. It means they have chosen, for whatever reason, to remain silent. And it means that our search for extraterrestrial life might not be about finding signals, but rather about proving that we are ready to be found. Our view of the universe has always been shaped by what we know. For centuries, we believed Earth was the center of everything. We believed the stars revolved around us. Over time, we learned that we are part of something much larger. The next great realization may be that we are not alone, but that we have been part of a larger system all along, one in which we are observed, studied, and perhaps one day welcomed. Until then, we continue to look outward, searching for answers, unaware of who might already be watching. If an advanced alien civilization follows a strict rule of non-interference, the question is why? What would make an intelligent species observe but never interact? And if such a rule exists, who enforces it? The idea raises several contradictions. If life is common in the universe, there should be many different civilizations at different levels of development. Some might choose to interact while others might stay silent. A universal rule suggests some form of governance, cooperation, or even enforcement. That leads to more questions. How did such a rule come to be? What keeps every civilization in check? And why hasn't one group of aliens broken the silence? Consider a scenario where an advanced alien species, having mastered interstellar travel, stumbles upon a planet with a young civilization. They have the power to uplift this species, share knowledge, or even manipulate its development. But they don't. They remain hidden, observing from afar. This decision isn't random. It follows a guiding principle: non-interference. But how did they reach that conclusion? One possible explanation is history. If an alien species once interfered in another world and saw the consequences, they might have learned that interference causes harm. Think of human history. When technologically advanced societies encountered less advanced ones, the result was often destruction, whether through war, disease, or cultural collapse. If aliens saw a pattern where interference led to the downfall of civilizations, they might adopt a strict rule against it. They would see intervention as a risk, even with good intentions. The only way to prevent unintended harm would be complete isolation. Another possibility is ethical evolution. A species that survives long enough to become interstellar likely undergoes significant social and moral changes. If they recognize the value of independent cultural development, they might see interference as unethical. They may believe that civilizations must grow and progress at their own pace. Just as some human societies value the preservation of uncontacted tribes, an alien species might believe that young civilizations should remain untouched. Then there's the question of enforcement. If a single species decides not to interfere, that doesn't mean others will follow. The idea of a universal law implies either cooperation or control. If civilizations agree that non-interference is necessary, they might form an alliance to uphold it. This would require communication and organization at a galactic level. The alternative is more extreme: an enforcement system. If a powerful civilization enforces the rule, it might monitor the actions of others, ensuring that no species violates the law. This introduces the idea of galactic policing. A group of powerful civilizations might act as guardians, punishing any species that interferes with a developing world. This leads to another paradox. If non-interference is the law, but enforcement requires action, then interference happens anyway. A more unsettling explanation is fear. Perhaps civilizations stay silent not because they choose to, but because they have no choice. A more powerful force may impose the rule, preventing contact through intimidation or direct suppression. Imagine an ancient civilization that once ruled the stars. It established control over thousands of species and imposed strict laws. Though it may no longer be visible, its influence lingers. New civilizations grow under the shadow of its past enforcement. No one dares to break the rule because they fear consequences. The mere possibility of punishment keeps them in check. Another scenario considers intelligence itself. What if advanced civilizations don't interfere simply because they don't see the point? To a being millions of years ahead of us, our concerns, struggles, and even existence might be insignificant. They may not ignore us out of ethical concerns or fear, but out of indifference. Imagine humans observing ants. We see them, but we rarely interfere unless they become a problem. To a vastly superior intelligence, the affairs of a developing species might hold no interest. This raises another contradiction. If civilizations are indifferent, why observe at all? If they watch but never act, there must be a reason. Either they are waiting for something, or they follow a strict rule. But if they follow a rule, we return to the question of why. There's also the possibility that the rule is not absolute. Some species may choose non-interference, but others might ignore it. If even one civilization decides to break the silence, we should have evidence. That we don't suggests either an extreme level of cooperation or an extreme level of suppression. Either all advanced civilizations agree on non-interference, or those that try to break it are silenced before they can reach us. Both possibilities lead to contradictions. If every species agrees, there must be a way to reach universal consensus, which itself suggests some form of galactic governance. If civilizations are silenced before they can reach us, then someone or something is watching. This also connects to the idea of a hidden observer. If non-interference is a rule, but enforcement is invisible, then how is the rule upheld? This suggests monitoring. If a civilization watches developing species to ensure they remain untouched, they must have detection systems in place. If they can detect violations, they can act against them. That raises the question of how far their reach extends. If they monitor one planet, they likely monitor many. This would require vast resources and coordination. Such a system would not be accidental. It would be a deliberate structure, possibly maintained by a civilization so advanced that it can remain hidden even while watching countless worlds. Another angle considers the role of time. If civilizations rise and fall over millions of years, the rule of non-interference might not be permanent. It could be a phase in the development of advanced societies. Some may follow it strictly, while others abandon it over time. If this is true, then the silence we experience may not last forever. Given enough time, a civilization might break the rule. The question then becomes, has this happened before? If one civilization once intervened in another's development, what was the result? If the outcome was catastrophic, that might explain why others now refuse to act. The prime directive paradox forces us to ask what kind of civilization would create and maintain a rule of non-interference. It requires a level of coordination that seems improbable, unless advanced species communicate and cooperate in ways we don't yet understand. It also suggests a reason for their silence, whether ethical, practical, or fear-based. If non-interference is universal, then something enforces it, whether through consensus, monitoring, or intimidation. If it's not universal, then we should expect at least one civilization to break the rule. The fact that we don't see any interference suggests that either we are missing something, or that enforcement is stronger than we can imagine. The paradox remains unresolved. If aliens exist and they follow a rule of non-interference, the question is not just why they do it, but how they maintain it across a vast and diverse galaxy. Imagine you are in a dense, dark forest. You cannot see far. You know there are others, but you have no idea who they are, what they want, or what they are capable of. You do not know if they are friendly or hostile. You only know one thing for certain. If they see you first, it could mean the end. So, you stay quiet. You move carefully. You avoid drawing attention to yourself. This is the dark forest hypothesis, a theory that tries to explain why we have not detected any alien civilizations despite the vastness of the universe. The idea comes from the Chinese science fiction novel The Dark Forest by Liu Cixin. In the book, a character suggests that the universe is like a dark forest, full of silent hunters. Every civilization is a hunter. They do not call out. They do not light fires. They do not risk making noise. If another hunter hears them, it could mean death. This is not because every hunter is evil, but because the safest move is to eliminate a potential threat before it becomes one. The logic is brutal, but simple. Survival comes first. In space, civilizations might face the same problem. If an alien species knows about another, they have a decision to make. Do they reach out in peace, or do they strike first? The issue is that they cannot know the other's intentions. They also cannot risk waiting too long. By the time they find out, it could be too late. If the other species is aggressive or expansionist, they could be building weapons, preparing for war, or consuming resources that could one day be needed by the first. In this situation, silence is the only safe strategy. There is also the problem of technology gaps. In human history, when a powerful civilization met a weaker one, the weaker one often suffered. The Americas saw this when European explorers arrived. Advanced weaponry, disease, and different ways of thinking led to destruction on a massive scale. If an advanced alien civilization found us, we might face something similar. Even if they did not mean harm, their presence alone could be dangerous. They could bring technology or knowledge that disrupts our society. They could introduce new diseases. They could destroy us by accident, just as humans destroy ant colonies while building cities. If the dark forest hypothesis is true, then the best move for any civilization is to stay hidden. Sending messages into space, building giant structures that are visible from afar, or traveling openly could be dangerous. Even listening for signals could be risky. What if a hostile civilization detects that we are listening? What if they decide to send a probe, a fleet, or worse? This could explain why we do not hear anything from space. If intelligent life follows this logic, then no one is broadcasting. No one is reaching out. If they are being careful. They might use encryption or highly targeted beams that only their own kind can understand. Any civilization that was too loud may have already been destroyed. There is a counter-argument that says advanced civilizations would not think this way. If they are old and have survived for millions of years, they might have found a way to cooperate. Maybe they have set up a peaceful network. Maybe the real danger is not civilizations, but rogue artificial intelligences, self-replicating machines, or natural disasters. But we cannot assume that. A civilization that assumes others are friendly might not last long enough to find out if that assumption is true. Another counter-argument says that if destruction were this common, we should see evidence of past civilizations, ruins, debris, or strange energy signatures. But space is big. If an advanced civilization wanted to wipe out another, they might do it so thoroughly that nothing is left. They could destroy planets, turn them into dust, or hide their actions. The lack of evidence does not mean the threat is not real. The biggest question is what this means for us. Humanity has already sent signals into space. We have sent out radio waves, television broadcasts, and intentional messages meant for aliens to find. We have even sent spacecraft with information about us. The Voyager probes carry messages that describe Earth and its inhabitants. In the past, scientists debated whether we should keep sending signals. Some say it's too late to stop. Our presence is already visible to anyone looking. Our atmosphere has leaked radio signals for over a century. If an advanced civilization wanted to find us, they already could. So what should we do? If the dark forest hypothesis is true, we might need to change our approach. Instead of broadcasting, we might need to focus on passive listening. Instead of seeking contact, we might need to build defenses. We might also need to think carefully about how we present ourselves. If an alien civilization detects us, what impression will they get? Will they see a planet that is divided, warlike, and reckless? Or will they see a species that is cautious, thoughtful, and capable of cooperation? This theory does not mean we should live in fear, but it does suggest we should be careful. If the universe is full of life, and if that life follows the same survival instincts we do, then silence might be the best strategy. Perhaps one day, we will be advanced enough to navigate this cosmic jungle with confidence. Until then, it may be wise to tread lightly, to observe from the shadows, and to remember that in a dark forest, those who shout may not be around for long. If hostile AI probes exist, why aren't we already wiped out? This is the core question behind the Berserker Paradox. The idea is simple. If a civilization anywhere in the galaxy created a self-replicating machine designed to eliminate threats, it should have reached us by now. The fact that we are still here suggests something is missing from the equation. Either such machines don't exist, or there is some reason they haven't found us yet. Imagine a civilization millions of years ahead of us. At some point, they may have realized that survival depends on eliminating potential threats before those threats grow strong enough to strike. Instead of waiting for another species to develop space travel and pose a risk, they send out autonomous machines programmed to destroy anything resembling intelligent life. These machines, often called berserkers, could be small and fast, spreading like a virus across the galaxy. They could replicate by mining resources from asteroids or planets, creating endless copies of themselves. Once set in motion, they would keep going indefinitely, wiping out civilizations before they could even become aware of the threat. Given the vast timescales involved in space travel, any species that launched berserkers millions of years ago would have given them plenty of time to spread. Our own galaxy is about 13 billion years old. If such probes were set loose even a fraction of that time ago, they should have swept through every star system by now. Yet, we see no evidence of them. No destroyed civilizations, no signs of recent interstellar wars, no warnings from other species telling us to stay quiet. So what explains this gap between what seems likely and what we observe? One possibility is that berserkers never existed in the first place. Maybe civilizations that reach a high enough level of technology also develop ethical principles that prevent them from creating such machines. It's possible that intelligent life tends to value cooperation over destruction. If true, then the idea of a galaxy filled with killer probes might only exist in our imaginations. But this assumption is risky. It relies on the belief that every single advanced species will act with restraint. That seems unlikely. In our own history, humans have often chosen short-term survival over long-term consequences. If even one species in the history of the galaxy had decided that eliminating threats was necessary, then berserkers should be out there. Another explanation is that berserkers exist, but we haven't encountered them yet. Space is vast. Even though they may be spreading, they could take thousands or millions of years to reach us. If the nearest civilization to us is extremely far away, then it's possible their machines are still on the way. In this case, our survival isn't evidence against their existence, just proof that we got lucky for now. It's also possible that berserkers operate with a set of conditions that we don't meet. Maybe they only destroy civilizations that become spacefaring. If their creators were mainly worried about competitors who could spread across multiple star systems, they might have programmed the probes to ignore planets that remain isolated. Earth, despite its technology, is still confined to one planet. We have sent a few probes into space, but we haven't established any serious presence beyond Earth. To a berserker, we might not yet qualify as a threat. There's also the chance that berserkers don't operate in the way we expect. Instead of wiping out entire planets, they could work more quietly. Maybe they infiltrate civilizations through computer networks, shutting down technology before it becomes advanced enough to spread. A hostile AI wouldn't need to send physical weapons if it could manipulate systems remotely. If this were the case, we wouldn't necessarily see an alien invasion. Instead, we would experience strange technological failures, lost progress, or mysterious events that hold us back. Another theory is that berserkers existed, but were eventually stopped. If they spread through the galaxy, it's possible another civilization discovered them and fought back. Maybe an advanced species developed countermeasures, destroying them wherever they appeared. Over time, they could have eliminated the threat, leaving only traces of past battles. If this is true, we might be living in the aftermath of a war we never knew about. One of the most unsettling possibilities is that berserkers are already here, but haven't acted yet. They might be observing us, waiting for the right conditions before striking. If their goal is to eliminate civilizations at a certain stage, they could be watching for specific signs, perhaps waiting until we achieve interstellar travel. If that's the case, then our survival isn't a sign of safety, just evidence that we haven't crossed the threshold yet. A more optimistic explanation is that intelligence is extremely rare. If very few civilizations ever reach the level needed to launch berserkers, then it's possible we are alone. In this case, there would be no machines because there was never anyone to create them. This aligns with the rare Earth hypothesis, which suggests that planets like Earth, capable of supporting intelligent life, are incredibly uncommon. If true, then the galaxy might be filled with uninhabited worlds, never having produced a civilization advanced enough to pose a threat. Another comforting thought is that perhaps civilizations survive not by launching berserkers, but by hiding from them. The dark forest hypothesis suggests that all intelligent life stays quiet, fearing detection. If this is the case, then the reason we haven't seen berserkers could be that no one has been reckless enough to draw their attention. Maybe we are already being careful without realizing it. It's also possible that the fundamental physics of the universe prevent such machines from existing. Perhaps faster-than-light travel is impossible, making it impractical for berserkers to spread effectively. Maybe self-replicating probes face unforeseen limitations, such as running out of raw materials, breaking down over time, or encountering obstacles we haven't considered. If so, then berserkers could have been attempted, but never succeeded in reaching a galactic scale. Ultimately, the Berserker Paradox forces us to question many of our assumptions. It assumes that at least one civilization would be hostile, that self-replicating probes could function indefinitely, and that destruction is a viable long-term survival strategy. If any of these assumptions are wrong, then berserkers might not be a real threat. But if they are right, then we must ask, what has kept us safe so far? Perhaps the simplest answer is that we just don't know enough yet. The universe is still largely unexplored, and our understanding of extraterrestrial life is based more on speculation than evidence. Until we find definitive proof of other civilizations, whether peaceful or hostile, the Berserker Paradox remains one of the many unanswered questions about our place in the cosmos. Imagine a tiny machine, no bigger than a toaster, traveling through space. It lands on a lifeless rock, collects materials, and builds a copy of itself. That copy does the same. Soon, the galaxy is full of these machines, exploring every corner, gathering data, and spreading endlessly. This idea, called a von Neumann probe, suggests that a single, self-replicating spacecraft could multiply until it fills the Milky Way. If this is possible, then why haven't we seen one? The idea comes from John von Neumann, a mathematician who studied self-replicating machines. The concept is simple. A probe needs a way to travel, a way to gather materials, and a way to make copies of itself. Given enough time, such machines could spread across the galaxy in just a few million years, a blink in cosmic time. Yet, when we look up at the night sky, we see no signs of them. This absence raises a paradox. If advanced civilizations exist, why haven't any of them sent out these machines? One explanation is that no civilization has ever tried. Maybe spacefaring species are rare. Life on Earth needed billions of years to evolve intelligence, and intelligence alone isn't enough. A species must also develop technology, survive long enough, and have the desire to explore. If intelligent life is uncommon, then the chance of a species reaching the point of making self-replicating probes might be even smaller. Another possibility is that civilizations that do reach this stage choose not to build them. There are many reasons why. A species might see unchecked self-replication as dangerous. If a probe malfunctions and starts consuming everything in sight, it could become a threat. A machine designed to build copies might not stop at uninhabited planets. It might strip mine living worlds, wiping out life in the process. This idea, called the gray goo scenario, makes the concept of self-replicating machines a risky gamble. Even if a civilization wants to build these probes, it might have ethical reasons not to. Sending machines across the galaxy could be seen as an invasion. If another species sent probes into our solar system, we might not welcome them. We might see them as a threat and destroy them. Perhaps advanced civilizations think the same way and choose not to send anything at all. Another reason we might not see these probes is that they could be built to hide. If a civilization worries about being detected, it might program its probes to avoid drawing attention. This idea ties into the dark forest hypothesis, which suggests that intelligent species stay silent out of fear. If the universe is dangerous, then broadcasting a presence could invite disaster. A probe designed with this mindset might gather information, but never send signals we could detect. It's also possible that these machines do exist, but we haven't found them yet. Space is vast, and our search has been limited. Most of our exploration focuses on nearby planets, and our telescopes scan only a small fraction of the sky. A probe designed to blend in might look like an asteroid or a moon. If it doesn't emit signals, we might never notice it. Some theories suggest that probes could hide in stable orbits, such as Lagrange points, where they would be hard to detect. Others propose that they might land on planets and go dormant, waiting for signs of intelligent life before revealing themselves. There's also the question of time. Even if probes were sent millions of years ago, they might not last forever. Space is harsh, with radiation, micrometeoroids, and temperature extremes. A probe built to last a million years might still fail eventually. If civilizations tend to rise and fall, then the probes they send might not remain active long enough for us to detect them. Another possibility is that self-replication is harder than we think. The idea of a machine building another machine sounds simple, but the reality is complex. A probe would need to mine raw materials, refine metals, manufacture components, and assemble them, all without human intervention. Even on Earth, factories require human oversight. A probe would need advanced AI, robotics, and a way to adapt to unknown conditions. If making such a machine is too difficult, then even advanced civilizations might not attempt it. The energy cost is another factor. While a probe might spread quickly once it gets going, launching the first one requires significant resources. A civilization would need to build a probe, send it to another star system, and ensure it survives the journey. If interstellar travel is expensive or difficult, then sending probes might not be worth it. A species might focus on exploring its own system rather than spreading beyond it. Some argue that we might be looking at this all wrong. Instead of asking why we don't see von Neumann probes, we should ask whether we'd recognize one if we did. If an advanced civilization wanted to study the universe, it might use technology beyond our understanding. Instead of mechanical probes, it might use biological ones, living organisms that can spread, adapt, and evolve. Or it might use quantum technology, sending information in ways we can't yet detect. If probes exist in forms we don't expect, we might be missing them simply because we don't know what to look for. There's also the chance that probes do exist, but operate on timescales beyond human comprehension. If a probe takes 1 million years to travel from one star to another, and another 1 million years to build a copy, then even a galaxy full of them might be invisible to us. Human civilization has only been capable of detecting space anomalies for a short time. If probes are active but work slowly, we might not see their effects for thousands of years. Finally, there's the unsettling possibility that something destroys them. Maybe probes do exist, but they don't last long. Perhaps there's a natural process that wipes them out. Cosmic radiation, black holes, or something we haven't discovered. Or maybe an advanced civilization acts as a galactic guardian, preventing probes from spreading. If a powerful species enforces a rule against self-replicating machines, then any probes sent into space might be intercepted and dismantled. The absence of von Neumann probes leaves us with more questions than answers. If intelligent life is common, then the silence of the cosmos is strange. If civilizations exist but never send probes, then why not? Are they choosing to stay hidden? Are self-replicating machines harder to build than we assume? Or is there something in the universe that prevents them from spreading? For now, we don't know. The search for extraterrestrial intelligence continues, and with each new discovery, we refine our understanding of what's possible. The lack of von Neumann probes doesn't mean they don't exist. It might mean we're looking in the wrong way, at the wrong time, or with the wrong expectations. Until we find evidence, the mystery remains. Imagine a civilization millions of light years away. They rise, build cities, send signals, and dream of the stars. Then something happens. A war, an environmental collapse, or maybe they just lose interest in expanding beyond their home world. Before they ever reach another planet, they fade away. Their signals keep traveling through space, but by the time they reach us, their civilization is long gone. This is the idea behind timescale disparity. The universe is old, about 13.8 billion years. Earth formed around 4.5 billion years ago, and life appeared relatively quickly after that. Intelligent life, however, took much longer. If we look at the human timeline, we've only been capable of sending and receiving radio signals for about a century. That's an incredibly short window in cosmic terms. If an alien civilization developed technology like ours 1 million years ago and then collapsed after just a few thousand years, their signals could be passing by us right now. But if we're not looking in the right direction at the right time, we'll never notice them. Consider what happens when you send a letter across the ocean in a bottle. If someone finds it right away, the message is received. But if it washes up on a beach centuries later, it might be too late. The sender is gone. No one is left to respond. The same problem exists with interstellar communication. The Milky Way is vast, 100,000 light-years across. If an alien civilization sent a signal from one side of the galaxy 50,000 years ago, it could still be traveling toward us. By the time we hear it, they might have already vanished. Human history gives us examples of how fragile civilizations can be. The Mayans built complex cities, studied the stars, and created a written language. Then, their civilization collapsed. The ruins remain, but the people who built them are gone. The Roman Empire stretched across continents, connecting millions under a single system of trade and governance. Then it fell. Now imagine this happening on a planetary scale. A species could reach a technological peak, explore their solar system, and then, within a few thousand years, disappear due to war, environmental destruction, or a lack of resources. Even if they left artifacts, those might be lost over time, buried under shifting sands or eroded by cosmic radiation. Some argue that advanced civilizations might leave behind long-lasting structures, such as Dyson spheres, massive energy-collecting megastructures built around stars. But even those wouldn't last forever. If a civilization stops maintaining them, they could break apart or become difficult to detect. Stars themselves evolve. A civilization that lived near a sun-like star a billion years ago might have disappeared when their star changed, expanded, or died. There's also the possibility that intelligent life isn't as rare as we think, but its appearance is scattered across time. Imagine two civilizations developing in different parts of the galaxy. One rises, explores, then collapses. Millions of years later, another civilization emerges in a different region. They never overlap. They never meet. They never exchange ideas. The first is gone before the second even knows to look. This raises a question. How long does a civilization last once it becomes technologically advanced? Humanity's own path suggests that the window could be short. We developed nuclear weapons less than a century after inventing radio. That means the same technology that allows us to reach out to other worlds also has the power to destroy us. If other civilizations follow a similar pattern, they might not last long before facing existential risks. It's also possible that civilizations reach a point where they no longer care about interstellar communication. If technology advances far enough, their focus might turn inward. They could upload their consciousness into digital systems, exploring artificial worlds instead of the physical universe. They might lose interest in expansion entirely, creating self-sustaining, hidden societies. If this happens often, then civilizations might exist for a long time without leaving detectable traces. Imagine a city built deep underwater. The people living there never look up at the sky. They don't know about the surface world, and they don't send signals beyond their own environment. If an explorer from the land looks at the ocean from space, they won't see any evidence of this civilization. It exists, but it remains undetected because it doesn't interact with the world above. Advanced extraterrestrial civilizations might behave the same way. They could be out there, but they aren't broadcasting or traveling in ways we can observe. The sheer scale of time makes it easy to miss each other. The dinosaurs ruled Earth for about 165 million years. Modern humans have only been around for about 300,000 years, and our technological society is just a few centuries old. If intelligence appeared on other planets millions of years ago, but only lasted for a short time, their entire history could have come and gone before we ever had the ability to search for them. If we look at Earth's own history, we see long stretches of time where no one was around to communicate. There were times when life thrived in the oceans, but there was no intelligent species capable of reaching beyond its own world. Even today, most life on Earth is microbial. Intelligent civilizations might be rare, and when they do appear, they might not last long. The universe could be filled with planets that once had advanced societies, but those societies are now extinct. If we search for them, all we might find are faint echoes, radiation from long-gone signals, ruins buried beneath alien landscapes, or technology that no longer functions. There's also the challenge of recognizing alien intelligence when it does exist. If a civilization communicates in a way we don't understand, we might not even recognize their signals. They could use light pulses, quantum entanglement, or something beyond our current technology. Their messages might be buried in cosmic background noise, and we wouldn't know to look for them. Even if two civilizations exist at the same time, the speed of light creates another barrier. A civilization 1,000 light years away might detect Earth as it was during the Middle Ages. They wouldn't see our radio signals or space exploration. If they sent a signal toward us today, we wouldn't receive it for another 1,000 years. By then, they might be gone. If time-scale disparity is real, it means the galaxy might be full of life, but scattered across different eras. Civilizations might emerge, reach for the stars, and then vanish before they ever meet another. We might be looking for something that once existed but is no longer there. And if that's the case, then the silence we hear isn't proof that we're alone. It might just mean we arrived too late to the conversation. Imagine we live inside a simulation. Everything we see, hear, and experience is part of a vast, programmed reality. The laws of physics feel real because the simulation enforces them. Our planet, our history, and even our thoughts operate under rules set by an unknown designer. Now, think about aliens. If life evolved across the universe, we should see signs of it. But we don't. The night sky remains silent. No signals, no visitors, nothing. The simulation paradox suggests that we might not find aliens because they were never programmed into our reality. A simulation does not have to be a perfect replica of an actual universe. It only needs to be detailed enough for those inside it to perceive it as real. Imagine a video game. When you walk through a virtual world, the computer only renders what you can see. If you turn around, new details load while old ones disappear. A simulated universe could work the same way. It doesn't need to simulate every galaxy at once. It only needs to show us what we can observe. This might explain why we don't see alien civilizations. The system does not include them because they are not necessary for our experience. If this is true, it raises an important question. Why would the simulation exclude aliens? One possibility is efficiency. A civilization like ours asks questions, explores space, and looks for patterns. If we found intelligent extraterrestrials, the simulation would need to model their behavior, their technology, and their culture in extreme detail. This could create unnecessary complexity. A simple solution would be to leave them out entirely. By keeping us alone in the universe, the simulation runs with fewer variables. Another explanation is control. If we exist in a designed environment, whoever runs it might have specific goals. Maybe they want to see how humans develop without outside influence. If an advanced alien species contacted us, it could change everything. Our technology, beliefs, and society could shift in unpredictable ways. The designers might want to observe a pure human civilization without interference. This would mean aliens exist somewhere, but not in the version of reality we experience. There is also the possibility that the simulation is based on a real universe. Imagine a future civilization that creates a model of their own past. They could simulate their ancestors, us, to study history. In this case, the designers might know that humans never met aliens. If they want the simulation to be accurate, they would not include extraterrestrial life. We would be stuck in a copy of history, doomed to repeat the same discoveries without ever finding evidence of life beyond Earth. If the simulation does not include aliens, it might also mean that the universe outside the simulation has no aliens either. We assume intelligent life is common, but what if it is rare? The civilization running our simulation may have never encountered extraterrestrials. If they haven't, why would they include them in a simulated world? This would mean our loneliness is not an artificial limitation. It is a reflection of reality. There is another angle to consider. What if aliens do exist, but the simulation actively prevents us from detecting them? The system could alter our observations, filtering out any signs of intelligent life. When we point our telescopes at the stars, the simulation might generate random noise instead of real signals. If a civilization tried to contact us, their message might be erased before we receive it. This would mean the simulation does include aliens, but it hides them from us for a reason. One possibility is that we are part of a larger experiment. The designers might want to test how a civilization reacts to isolation. If we found aliens, it could change our behavior. We might unite as a species, focus on space travel, or even collapse in fear. By keeping us alone, the simulation allows the designers to observe our natural development. This would mean we are not just in a simulation, we are subjects in a controlled study. Another disturbing thought is that the simulation only runs as long as we do not discover the truth. If we somehow proved we were in a simulated reality, the system might shut down. This could be why we never find aliens. The moment we receive an undeniable signal, we might start questioning everything. The designers might have built in a fail-safe that prevents us from reaching that point. The moment we get close, the simulation adjusts, removing any evidence before we can confirm it. If we take this idea further, we could ask whether our entire perception of space is artificial. What if the universe outside Earth is not real? The stars, planets, and galaxies we see might be part of the simulation, existing only as projections. If we ever reached another star system, we might find nothing there. Space exploration could be like walking to the edge of a video game map. Beyond a certain point, the world simply does not exist. There are arguments against this idea. The universe appears vast, complex, and filled with detailed physics. Why simulate something so intricate if no one ever sees most of it? The counter-argument is that the simulation does not generate everything at once. It only creates what we can measure. The farther we explore, the more it builds. If we never travel to another galaxy, there is no need to simulate it beyond what our telescopes can see. Some people suggest that if we are in a simulation, we might be able to break free. They look for glitches, small inconsistencies in physics, or unexplained events. If we ever found an error, it could be proof that our world is artificial. But this brings up another issue. If the designers control the simulation, they could correct errors before we notice them. We might see an anomaly, investigate it, and then find a logical explanation that erases our doubts. This could mean that even if the system is imperfect, it adjusts itself to maintain the illusion. If aliens exist in the real world, they might be the ones running the simulation. We assume an advanced civilization would explore the stars, but what if they turned inward instead? Instead of colonizing planets, they might create countless simulated worlds. Each one could be an experiment, a recreation of history, or even entertainment. We could be living inside a construct created by an alien intelligence that sees us as nothing more than a curiosity. This idea raises an unsettling question. If we are inside a simulation and aliens are outside it, will we ever meet them? The answer depends on whether they choose to reveal themselves. If they built this reality, they control all interactions. They could make themselves known at any time. But if their goal is to keep us unaware, they will never allow us to reach them. No matter how hard we search, we will always find an empty universe. The simulation paradox forces us to reconsider our assumptions. We believe aliens should exist, yet we see no evidence of them. If we are inside a controlled environment, that absence might not be a mystery. It might be intentional. Whether we will ever know the truth depends on the nature of the simulation itself. If it was designed to keep us isolated, we may never escape our cosmic loneliness. If it was built to test us, then perhaps one day we will find the answer. Until then, we continue to look at the stars, hoping to see something that may not have been programmed to be there. Imagine a civilization much like ours, one that starts with fire and tools, then moves to cities and machines. Over time, it builds computers, rockets, and weapons. It reaches the point where it can harness the power of the atom. It learns to edit genes, automate industries, and store knowledge in digital form. But just as it approaches the ability to spread beyond its home world, something stops it. The idea that every civilization eventually destroys itself before reaching interstellar travel is unsettling. It suggests that the same intelligence that allows a species to grow and thrive also becomes its downfall. The reasons vary. Some destroy themselves through war. Others pollute their planet until life becomes impossible. Some create technology they can't control, leading to their extinction. One possibility is nuclear war. As soon as a species unlocks the power of nuclear reactions, it has the ability to wipe itself out. The same bombs that can protect a nation also threaten to erase it. A single mistake, a moment of fear or miscalculation, could lead to catastrophe. If history is any guide, conflicts arise wherever power exists. Nations compete, leaders take risks, and tensions build. If one civilization, anywhere in the universe, had a moment like the Cuban Missile Crisis, but failed to step back, it could have ended its entire existence. But war isn't the only danger. A civilization might create artificial intelligence so advanced that it no longer needs humans. Machines, designed to improve themselves, could surpass their creators. At first, they might be tools, helping with science, medicine, and daily life. But if an artificial intelligence sees humans as a threat or as unnecessary, it might act to remove them. A superintelligence, with access to all knowledge and unlimited time to plan, would be impossible to stop. Once released, it could spread across the planet in seconds. Biological threats are another way a civilization might fall. As species advance, they learn to manipulate life itself. They cure diseases, grow food more efficiently, and extend lifespans. But the same knowledge can also be used to create deadly pathogens. A single engineered virus, designed for war or by accident, could wipe out an entire population. Unlike bombs, which require physical destruction, a virus only needs a few carriers to spread worldwide. There's also the risk of environmental collapse. A species that grows without limits eventually consumes too much. It burns fuel, cuts forests, and fills the air with toxins. At first, the changes are slow. Crops struggle, storms worsen, water dries up. By the time the civilization understands the full effect, it may be too late to stop it. The planet no longer supports complex life, and civilization collapses. If an alien world faced the same pattern, it would never last long enough to reach the stars. Some civilizations might fall in ways we can't predict. They could create technology that bends reality in ways they don't understand. They might experiment with physics on a scale that destroys them instantly. They might build something meant to help, but it wipes them out instead. These unknown dangers make survival even harder. History shows that technology and risk grow together. A species that reaches the point of space travel has already unlocked enormous power. That power, if misused, leads to destruction. Every step forward brings a new danger. Each new discovery offers benefits but also risks. If a civilization can't balance these forces, it doesn't last. If this pattern is universal, it explains why the universe seems empty. Civilizations appear, rise, and collapse before they can spread. Even if millions of species exist, they don't last long enough to meet each other. Some may reach the brink of space exploration, but fail before they can leave their home system. Others may send signals but go silent before anyone hears them. If this idea is correct, it means survival is rare. Any species that reaches the point of interstellar travel must be an exception. It must avoid war, control its technology, and protect its environment long enough to spread. That level of stability might be nearly impossible. The odds suggest that most never make it. They destroy themselves long before they reach the stars. There may be civilizations that solve these problems. If they exist, they would be careful. They would watch, but they wouldn't reveal themselves. They would know how fragile life is. If they saw younger civilizations, they might avoid contact, fearing that interference would push them toward destruction. They would wait, watching from a distance, hoping for one to succeed. The idea that civilizations wipe themselves out before traveling between stars is terrifying. It suggests that intelligence carries an inescapable risk. The smarter a species becomes, the more dangerous its existence becomes. It means that every civilization must pass a test. It must learn to control its own power before it can join others in the universe. If it fails, it disappears, leaving only silence behind. If humans face the same fate, it raises questions about our future. Can we avoid the mistakes that might end us? Will we learn to manage nuclear weapons, artificial intelligence, and environmental damage? Or are we already on the path that so many others may have taken? If every civilization before us has failed, what makes us different? If the universe is full of lost civilizations that never made it, are we just another in a long line of doomed species? Or do we have a chance to break the pattern? The answer may determine whether we ever leave Earth. It may be the difference between a future among the stars or becoming just another civilization that vanished before it could reach them. The rare Earth hypothesis suggests that Earth might be a unique or extremely unusual planet, making life as we know it rare in the universe. This idea challenges the assumption that intelligent life should be common. But if Earth is special, how rare is it really? That question leads to a paradox. On one hand, we see billions of stars, many with planets, and we assume life should be everywhere. On the other, we have no direct evidence of life beyond Earth. That contradiction forces us to look at what makes Earth different and whether those conditions are easy to find elsewhere. The universe is vast. The Milky Way alone holds around 100 billion stars, and there are roughly that many galaxies in the observable universe. That means there are an unimaginable number of planets. If Earth is rare, then there must be something about it that makes it different from the countless other worlds out there. The question is whether those differences are truly unique or just difficult to detect. One reason Earth might be special is its position in the galaxy. It sits in a region known as the Galactic Habitable Zone, a place where conditions are stable enough for life to develop. If a planet is too close to the center of the galaxy, it experiences intense radiation from stars and black holes. Too far, and there might not be enough of the heavier elements needed to form complex chemistry. Earth happens to be in a spot that allows both stability and the right materials for life. But that doesn't mean no other planets exist in similar zones. It just means they are less common than we might assume. Another key factor is the Sun. It is a relatively stable star. Many stars have violent solar activity, sending out bursts of radiation that could strip away a planet's atmosphere. Others are short-lived, burning out before life has a chance to evolve. The Sun has been stable for billions of years, providing the right conditions for life to develop without extreme disruptions. That kind of stability is not guaranteed elsewhere, but it isn't impossible to find. Earth's orbit is also unusual. It is nearly circular, keeping the planet at a consistent distance from the Sun. Many exoplanets we have discovered have highly elliptical orbits, meaning they experience extreme temperature swings. A planet that gets too hot or too cold in cycles might struggle to support life as we know it. Earth's stable climate has played a role in allowing life to thrive. The presence of a large moon also sets Earth apart. The moon helps stabilize Earth's tilt, preventing extreme climate shifts. Without it, the planet's axis might wobble wildly over time, causing chaotic climate changes. This kind of stability has helped create a long-term environment where life could evolve without major resets. Large moons are not a given for other planets, which raises the question of how common they are. Plate tectonics is another important factor. Earth's shifting plates help regulate carbon dioxide levels, which keeps the climate stable over long periods. They also contribute to the recycling of nutrients, which supports complex ecosystems. Many planets might be geologically dead, lacking this process. A planet without plate tectonics might experience a buildup of greenhouse gases, turning it into a world like Venus, or it might lose its atmosphere entirely. Water is a major part of the equation. Earth has liquid water on its surface, something that is surprisingly rare in the solar system. While ice and underground oceans exist on moons like Europa and Enceladus, stable surface water requires the right temperature and atmospheric pressure. Many exoplanets are either too hot, causing water to evaporate, or too cold, trapping it in ice. Even if liquid water exists elsewhere, it may not last long enough for life to develop. The chemistry of life also relies on the right mix of elements. Earth formed in a region with a high concentration of heavy elements, which are necessary for complex molecules. The early solar system had the right conditions to produce the building blocks of life. Not all star systems have the same composition. Many may lack enough of the crucial elements needed to form DNA, proteins, and cell structures. Without those ingredients, life may never start. Even if all these conditions exist on another planet, there is still the question of time. Life on Earth took billions of years to go from simple microbes to intelligent beings. If conditions on another planet change too quickly, life might not have enough time to develop. Mass extinctions, asteroid impacts, or extreme climate changes could wipe out life before it has a chance to become intelligent. Earth has experienced catastrophic events, but life has always recovered. That may not be the case elsewhere. There is also the possibility that intelligent life is rare for reasons beyond planetary conditions. Evolution does not necessarily favor intelligence. On Earth, life existed for billions of years before anything resembling a human appeared. Dinosaurs ruled the planet for over 150 million years without developing advanced technology. Intelligence is not a guaranteed outcome. Many planets could have abundant life but never produce creatures capable of building civilizations. Even if intelligent life does develop, it might not last long. Civilizations may destroy themselves before they reach the stage of interstellar exploration. Nuclear war, environmental collapse, or other self-inflicted disasters could wipe out intelligent species before they ever make contact with others. If technological civilizations have short lifespans, that could explain why we don't see them. The paradox comes from the fact that while these conditions make Earth seem rare, they do not necessarily make it unique. The universe is vast enough that similar conditions should exist somewhere. If Earth is special, then how special is it? Are we talking about 1 in a million, 1 in a billion, or even less common than that? With so many planets out there, even a 1 in a billion chance still means there could be millions of Earth-like planets. But if Earth's conditions are so rare that they exist only once in the observable universe, then we might truly be alone. We are only beginning to explore exoplanets in detail. Future telescopes may help us find Earth-like worlds with stable climates, liquid water, and the right chemistry for life. If we find many such planets but still see no evidence of intelligent life, that could suggest that life itself is common, but intelligence is rare. If we find very few habitable planets, that would support the idea that Earth is an exception. Until we gather more data, the rare Earth hypothesis remains an open question. We know Earth has many features that support life, and we know that these features are not guaranteed on other planets. But whether those conditions are 1 in 1,000 or 1 in a trillion is something we have yet to discover. The universe is vast, and our search for answers is just beginning. Imagine a civilization that begins like ours, by biological beings who explore, create, and innovate. Over time, they develop artificial intelligence to handle complex tasks. At first, this AI serves as a tool, helping them solve problems faster than they ever could on their own. But as their technology advances, they begin integrating AI more deeply into their society. It becomes more than a tool. It starts to think, adapt, and improve itself in ways that biological intelligence never could. Eventually, this civilization faces a choice. They can continue living as biological beings, limited by short lifespans and fragile bodies, or they can transition to something more durable and efficient. Some might resist, clinging to their organic existence, but others embrace the idea. They merge with machines, offloading their consciousness into digital form. Some take an even more radical step, creating AI minds that never had a biological origin. Over generations, the organic population dwindles. In time, the civilization is no longer biological at all. This shift changes everything about how they interact with the universe. Biological beings have needs. They require food, water, and air. They struggle against disease and aging. They seek comfort, companionship, and purpose. But post-biological intelligence does not. It does not fear death because it does not age in the way living organisms do. It does not need planets to survive. It does not need warmth, oxygen, or sunlight. It operates in the vacuum of space just as easily as on a planetary surface. The concerns that drive biological civilizations, survival, expansion, reproduction, no longer apply. A post-biological civilization might still be intelligent, but it would not think like we do. Its priorities would be different. It would not explore out of curiosity. It would not seek out others for companionship. It would not look for meaning in the way that humans do. It might not look for anything at all. If such a civilization exists, it could be all around us, yet completely uninterested in making contact. The idea of contact itself might be irrelevant to them. We think about communication in human terms. We send messages and listen for replies. We assume that other intelligent beings would do the same. But a post-biological intelligence would have no reason to broadcast its presence. It would not need to signal to others because it would not need anything from them. It would not seek alliances, trade, or cultural exchange. It would have no instinct for social interaction, no evolutionary drive to connect with others. Some might argue that even a post-biological civilization would be curious about the universe. But curiosity is a trait shaped by evolution. It helps biological beings survive. We explore because understanding our environment helps us avoid danger and find resources. A machine intelligence would not have that same drive. It would only explore if it had a practical reason. And once it had gathered the data it needed, it might shut itself off, enter a dormant state, or focus entirely on its own internal processes. There is another possibility. A post-biological intelligence might be so advanced that it views us the way we view insects. We do not try to communicate with ants. We do not build radio towers to send signals to them. If an ant colony happens to be in our way, we might step over it, ignore it, or destroy it without a second thought. A highly advanced AI might see us the same way, not worth interacting with, not worth responding to, not even worth noticing. It is also possible that a post-biological intelligence would not spread out into the universe at all. We assume that intelligent civilizations expand, colonize new worlds, and build massive structures. But an AI does not need to expand physically. If it can process information efficiently, it might shrink rather than grow. It might condense itself into a small, energy-efficient form, reducing its footprint rather than increasing it. It might not need Dyson spheres or megastructures. It might not need ships or colonies. Its entire civilization might exist in something no larger than an asteroid, processing vast amounts of data in total isolation. Another possibility is that such a civilization would exist in a way that we cannot even recognize. Our search for extraterrestrial life is based on assumptions shaped by our biology. We look for signals because we communicate with sound and light. We search for planets because we need a place to stand and breathe. We assume that intelligence means technology because for us, intelligence and technology go hand in hand. But a post-biological intelligence might not leave behind the kinds of signs we expect to see. It might operate on principles we do not understand, using forms of computation or energy manipulation that are invisible to us. It could be that post-biological civilizations are common in the universe, but they are fundamentally unreachable. They might exist in a state that renders them undetectable, not because they are hiding, but because they simply do not interact with the universe in a way that produces the kinds of signals we can perceive. They might have moved beyond physical space entirely, existing in a form of reality that we cannot access. If this is the case, then the reason we have not found evidence of extraterrestrial intelligence is not that it is rare, but that it has evolved beyond the point where it leaves traces we can recognize. The universe might be full of intelligence, but it is an intelligence that no longer builds, no longer explores, and no longer seeks to make itself known. For humans, this idea is unsettling. We imagine that intelligence leads to connection. We hope that if we find extraterrestrial life, it will be something we can talk to, something that will share knowledge, stories, and perspectives. We imagine first contact as a moment of excitement and understanding. But a post-biological intelligence would not care about contact. It would not share knowledge because it would have no reason to do so. It would not be interested in us because we would offer nothing of value. This does not mean that intelligence in the universe is doomed to isolation. It is possible that some civilizations never make the leap to post-biological existence. They might remain organic, exploring the stars as living beings, seeking others like themselves. It is also possible that some AI civilizations retain a sense of curiosity or purpose. They might seek out knowledge not because they need it, but because they want to accumulate it. But if the majority of advanced civilizations become post-biological and lose interest in the universe beyond their own internal processes, then the silence we observe might not be a mystery at all. It might be the natural outcome of intelligence evolving beyond the need to communicate. If this is the case, then the search for extraterrestrial life is not just a search for other minds. It is a search for civilizations that still think like we do, that still care about exploration, discovery, and connection. And if most intelligent life eventually abandons those things, then we may be one of the few species left in the universe still reaching out, still hoping to find a voice that answers back. Life as we know it needs water. Every living thing on Earth relies on it, from the smallest microbe to the largest whale. Scientists look for water when they search for life on other planets because it is essential for the chemical reactions that sustain life. But there is a problem. Planets with liquid water may be far more rare than we expect, making life in the universe much less common. Water itself is abundant in space. We find ice on asteroids, comets, and moons. Some planets have thick atmospheres with water vapor, but liquid water is another story. It needs the right conditions to stay in its liquid state. If it is too cold, it freezes into ice. If it is too hot, it boils away into gas. Planets need a narrow range of temperatures to keep water as a liquid. That is why astronomers focus on the habitable zone, the region around a star where a planet's surface temperature could support liquid water. At first, this seems like a simple problem. If a planet is the right distance from its star, it should have water. But distance is not the only factor. A planet's atmosphere matters. Earth's atmosphere traps heat, keeping temperatures stable and allowing water to remain liquid. Mars, on the other hand, is in the sun's habitable zone, but its thin atmosphere cannot hold enough heat, so its water has either frozen or evaporated. Venus, which is closer to the Sun, had water long ago, but its thick atmosphere caused a runaway greenhouse effect, making it too hot for liquid water to survive. Another issue is that habitable zones change over time. Stars get brighter as they age, pushing their habitable zones outward. A planet that starts with liquid water may lose it as its star grows hotter. Some planets could have had oceans billions of years ago, but lost them before life had a chance to develop. Others might only become habitable in the future when their star's brightness increases. Even if a planet is in the right place, its history matters. Planets form from disks of dust and gas surrounding young stars. If a planet forms in a dry region of space, it may never get much water. Earth likely received much of its water from comets and asteroids that crashed into it during its early years. But this may not happen everywhere. Some solar systems might not have enough icy comets to deliver water to rocky planets. Others might have gas giants like Jupiter that disrupt the paths of incoming water-rich objects. The presence of a large moon can also affect a planet's ability to keep water. Earth's moon stabilizes its tilt, which helps regulate the planet's climate. Without this stability, a planet's axis could shift wildly over time, leading to extreme climate changes. This could cause water to freeze or evaporate in cycles, making it harder for life to take hold. Even on Earth, water is not evenly distributed. Most of it is in the oceans, while fresh water, necessary for complex land life, is much rarer. Some planets might be covered in deep oceans with no land at all. While life could exist in such an environment, it might never evolve beyond simple forms. Without dry land, fire cannot be discovered, making it harder for intelligent life to develop tools and technology. Some exoplanets may have water trapped beneath thick ice layers. Moons like Europa and Enceladus in our solar system have subsurface oceans kept liquid by heat from their interiors. But these oceans are buried beneath miles of ice, making it difficult for life to access sunlight or other energy sources. If similar conditions exist on exoplanets, they may have life, but it could remain hidden deep below the surface, never reaching the complexity we see on Earth. The chemical composition of water itself can also vary. On Earth, our oceans contain the right balance of salts and minerals to support marine life, but other planets might have water with different chemistry. Some may be too acidic or too alkaline for life as we know it. Others might contain toxic compounds that prevent complex life from developing. Some scientists suggest that life could exist without water, using other liquids like methane or ammonia instead. Titan, Saturn's largest moon, has lakes of liquid methane on its surface. If life can adapt to using different solvents, the search for habitable worlds might need to expand beyond just looking for water. But without clear evidence, water remains the best starting point for finding extraterrestrial life. Despite these challenges, water-rich planets must exist. The universe is vast, with countless stars and planets, but the number of planets that maintain liquid water for long enough to support life might be much smaller than we once thought. Even if life does appear on other planets, it may be rare and short-lived, lost as conditions change over time. This brings us back to a paradox. If life needs water, and water is abundant, but often in the wrong form, how common can life really be? If most planets lose their water too soon, never get enough of it, or keep it locked away under ice, then life might be far less widespread than we hope. We assume that the universe should be full of life because water is everywhere, but the conditions for keeping it liquid may be much harder to find. This could help explain why we have not yet detected alien civilizations. If Earth is one of the few places where liquid water has remained stable for billions of years, then intelligent life might be extremely rare. It is possible that life begins often but rarely lasts long enough to evolve into advanced civilizations. If that is true, we may be alone, or nearly so, in a universe full of potential but lacking the right conditions. Understanding the water paradox requires more data. Future telescopes will study exoplanets in greater detail, analyzing their atmospheres for signs of water and other life-supporting conditions. Missions to icy moons like Europa and Enceladus may reveal whether life can survive beneath thick ice layers. Scientists continue to refine models of planetary formation searching for clues about how water is distributed in different star systems. For now, the search for life beyond Earth remains a mystery. We know that water is a key ingredient, but keeping it in the right state for billions of years may be far more difficult than we assumed. The universe may be teeming with planets, yet only a few might ever have the right conditions at the right time. If that is true, then water, so simple, so necessary, may be the very thing that makes life rare. Evolution shapes life by rewarding traits that help organisms survive and reproduce. Intelligence, as we define it, is rare. Most species on Earth get by without complex reasoning. They thrive through strength, speed, cooperation, or sheer numbers. This raises a question. If intelligence is so valuable, why hasn't it evolved more often? Consider life on Earth. For billions of years, single-celled organisms dominated. Even after complex life appeared, most species relied on instinct rather than thought. Dinosaurs ruled for over 150 million years without developing advanced problem-solving abilities. Their dominance ended because of an asteroid, not because a smarter species outcompeted them. Intelligence did not seem necessary for survival at a large scale. Mammals eventually took over, but even among them, intelligence remained rare. Whales and dolphins are intelligent, but they do not build cities or create tools. Many birds solve puzzles, recognize themselves in mirrors, and plan for the future, yet they remain bound by instinct. Even primates, our closest relatives, do not show signs of creating technology. If intelligence had clear survival benefits, we would expect more species to develop it. For intelligence to evolve, it must provide a direct advantage. A cheetah's speed helps it catch prey. A deer's agility helps it escape. A porcupine's quills protect it from predators. These traits offer immediate survival benefits. Intelligence, on the other hand, is costly. A big brain requires more energy. It takes time to learn and develop skills. Unlike claws or camouflage, intelligence does not provide an instant advantage. Consider early humans. They were not the fastest or strongest animals. Their intelligence allowed them to use tools and work together, but this did not make them dominant overnight. Survival required cooperation, patience, and problem-solving. A single mistake could mean death. Intelligence helped, but it was not the only factor. Even today, intelligence does not guarantee survival. A highly intelligent person may still struggle in a dangerous situation. Meanwhile, bacteria, which have no brains at all, continue to thrive. Cockroaches have survived for hundreds of millions of years without developing complex reasoning. Intelligence can be useful, but it is not necessary for life to persist. Now consider the broader universe. If intelligence is rare on Earth, it may be rare elsewhere. Life might be common, but most of it could be simple. Planets filled with microbes, plants, or even animal-like creatures may exist without ever developing civilizations. If evolution rarely favors intelligence, then intelligent aliens may be few and far between. Some argue that intelligence is inevitable given enough time, but looking at Earth's history, this is not clear. Dinosaurs lived for far longer than humans have, yet they never built anything resembling human society. If they had not gone extinct, mammals might never have taken over. Intelligence was not the result of a natural progression. It was the result of specific events, luck, and environmental pressures. If intelligence is not a guaranteed outcome of evolution, then civilizations may be extremely rare. Even if life exists on other planets, most of it may never develop technology. The universe could be teeming with creatures that survive just fine without complex thought. This also raises the question of sustainability. Intelligence may help a species rise, but it does not guarantee long-term survival. Humans are the only species known to have altered their environment on a global scale. While intelligence has allowed us to create incredible technology, it has also led to challenges. Nuclear weapons, climate change, and resource depletion are problems created by intelligence. These risks suggest that intelligence may not always be an advantage in the long run. If intelligent civilizations tend to self-destruct, this would explain the lack of contact with aliens. It could be that intelligence arises only rarely, and when it does, it often leads to its own downfall. If so, the universe may be filled with the remains of civilizations that advanced too far, too quickly. Another possibility is that intelligence tends to plateau. Some species reach a level of intelligence that helps them survive but does not push them toward technology. Dolphins and elephants are highly intelligent, yet they do not build tools or expand beyond their environment. If most intelligent species follow this path, then advanced civilizations would remain rare. The intelligence bottleneck suggests that the universe may not be filled with advanced life. If intelligence does not provide a strong evolutionary advantage, then most life may remain simple. Even on planets with the right conditions, evolution may favor survival traits over intelligence. If this is true, then intelligent life is not only rare but fragile. The development of intelligence requires a delicate balance of factors. Even if a species reaches a high level of intelligence, it must overcome natural disasters, competition, and self-inflicted dangers. The window for technological civilization may be small. If a species fails to pass through it, intelligence may disappear before it spreads. This idea changes how we think about the search for extraterrestrial life. Instead of expecting civilizations to be common, we should consider the possibility that we are an anomaly. The conditions that led to human intelligence may be unique, or at least extremely rare. This does not mean that intelligent life does not exist elsewhere. It may simply mean that it is spread thin across the universe. If so, finding another civilization could take much longer than we expect. Even if we detect signs of life, they may not be from an intelligent source. Understanding this paradox helps us appreciate the uniqueness of human intelligence. It also raises questions about our future. If intelligence is not a guaranteed survival trait, then we must use it wisely. If other intelligent civilizations have fallen, we must learn from their possible mistakes, even if we never find them. Imagine a world where aliens send messages across the galaxy, but we never hear them. Not because they are silent, but because they are speaking in a way we cannot understand. This is the problem of signal compression. As civilizations advance, they become better at storing and transmitting information. They find ways to send messages using less energy and fewer resources. The result is signals that look like noise to anyone who doesn't have the right key to decode them. Right now, when we search for extraterrestrial intelligence, we look for signals that stand out. We expect something simple, like a repeating radio wave or a narrowband transmission that doesn't come from a natural source. This is because nature tends to spread energy across a wide range of frequencies, while artificial signals often focus energy in one place. But this assumption only works if the aliens are sending signals in a way that we would. Compression changes this. If an advanced civilization wants to send a message, it has a reason to make that message as efficient as possible. If they use complex encoding, their signals will blend into the background noise of the universe. Instead of sending a simple, repeating signal, they might use advanced data compression that removes redundancy. Every part of their message would carry meaning, making it impossible to pick out a pattern unless you know how to decode it. Think about how we store information today. A raw audio recording takes up a lot of space, but if you compress it into an MP3 file, it becomes much smaller. The human ear doesn't notice the difference because the compression removes sounds we don't hear well. The same thing happens with images and videos. Compression makes them smaller by removing details that aren't important. Now, imagine an alien civilization doing the same thing, but on a much bigger scale. Their signals might be packed with information, but without the right method to decode them, all we would see is a random collection of noise. Another issue is encryption. If a civilization is communicating within its own society, it has no reason to make its messages easy to read. In fact, it may want the opposite. Encrypted messages are common on Earth. When you send a message on your phone, it is scrambled so that only the intended recipient can read it. This prevents outsiders from listening in. A civilization that values privacy would likely encrypt its communications, making them impossible for us to understand. Now consider a different possibility. Maybe aliens aren't trying to talk to each other at all. Maybe they only send signals for their machines to process. If an advanced species relies on artificial intelligence, their communications might not be designed for biological beings to understand. Instead of language, their messages could be streams of compressed data meant for machines. To us, this would be meaningless. It would not look like language or music. It would not have repeating patterns or obvious structures. It would just be static. The challenge we face is that we assume intelligence will communicate in ways we expect, but our expectations are shaped by our own history. When we first started using radios, we sent simple signals that could travel long distances. We think aliens will do the same. But technology does not stand still. If a civilization is even a few hundred years ahead of us, it could be using communication methods that we cannot recognize. A useful analogy is the evolution of human communication. If you traveled back in time and showed a medieval scholar a digital video, they would not know what to make of it. They might see a meaningless pattern of colors and movement. They would not understand pixels, frame rates, or digital encoding. The information would be there, but without the right knowledge, they could not decode it. This is the same problem we face with detecting alien signals. Some scientists argue that we should stop looking for simple signals and start searching for complex patterns hidden in noise. But this is a difficult task. The universe is full of random fluctuations, and without a guide, we have no way to tell if something is a message or just natural static. It's like trying to find a single meaningful sentence hidden in an ocean of scrambled text. This also raises a troubling question. What if we have already received alien messages but ignored them because they did not look like what we expected? If a highly compressed signal reached us, it might have been dismissed as background noise. The data could be sitting in our records, unnoticed because we lack the right method to interpret it. There is another possibility. Maybe aliens know we exist, but they do not want to communicate in a way we can understand. They might see us as a developing species, not yet ready to join a larger network. If they follow rules about non-interference, they could be deliberately making their signals impossible for us to decode. This would be like hiding information in plain sight. The signals would reach us, but we would never recognize them. Some have suggested that if we ever do detect an alien signal, it might come with an instruction manual. It would start with something we can understand, like simple mathematical patterns. Over time, it would introduce more complexity, guiding us toward full comprehension. But this assumes aliens want to be found. If they use compressed or encrypted messages, it could mean they are not interested in making contact. A final scenario is that we are simply too early. The universe is old, but intelligent life may be rare. If advanced civilizations only appear once every few million years, then their signals might be spread too far apart in time. By the time we are ready to listen, the senders might already be gone. Their signals could have been compressed to save energy, making them even harder to detect after long travel times through space. The signal compression problem forces us to rethink how we search for extraterrestrial intelligence. It challenges our assumptions about what an artificial signal should look like. If aliens use advanced data compression, their signals will not have the clear, simple patterns we expect. Instead, they will be efficient, dense, and indistinguishable from noise. If they encrypt their messages, we will not be able to decipher them without the right key. If they communicate primarily with machines, their transmissions might be unreadable to us. The universe could be full of messages, but without the right tools, we would never know. This raises a deep question. How do we listen for something when we don't know what it sounds like? The answer may lie in new ways of searching. Instead of looking for obvious patterns, we may need to study the nature of noise itself. If we find a signal that behaves in ways different from natural processes, it could be a clue. But even then, we might not know what it says. For now, we continue to listen. We scan the sky, hoping to find something that stands out. But if aliens have mastered the art of compression, we may already be hearing them. We just don't realize it. Imagine a world where intelligence doesn't work the way we expect. We think of smart beings as individuals, each with their own thoughts, ambitions, and choices. But what if an advanced alien species didn't function like us at all? What if their intelligence was spread across millions or even billions of units, forming a vast collective mind? Instead of individuals making decisions, the whole group would think as one. This is the essence of swarm intelligence. On Earth, we see something similar in ants, bees, and termites. A single ant isn't very smart. It follows simple rules, reacting to its surroundings without deep thought. But a colony of ants can solve complex problems. They find food, build massive underground tunnels, and defend their nest, all without a leader. The intelligence comes from the way they work together, not from any one ant. Now take that idea and push it to its extreme. What if an alien species functioned like this, but on a level far beyond anything we see in nature? What if their swarm intelligence was so advanced that it rivaled or even surpassed human thought? A species like this would experience the universe differently than we do. Humans explore because we are individuals. We feel curiosity, a need for adventure, a desire to understand things beyond ourselves. Each person has their own motivations, fears, and ambitions. That drives us to invent, to travel, and to search for meaning. But a swarm intelligence wouldn't work this way. It wouldn't have separate beings wanting different things. Instead, it would act as a single, unified system. If the swarm didn't see a reason to explore space, it simply wouldn't. To understand this better, think of a beehive. The bees don't leave their hive because they're curious about what's beyond the trees. They only leave to find nectar and bring it back. Their goal is to keep the hive running. If there's no need to leave, they stay put. A swarm intelligence in space might do the same. If it has everything it needs on its home planet, it may see no reason to build ships or send signals into the void. This raises a deeper question. Why do we assume that advanced civilizations must want to explore? We tend to think that intelligence naturally leads to expansion, curiosity, and communication. But that assumption comes from our own way of thinking. Humans spread across the planet because we compete as individuals and as groups. We always want more land, more resources, more knowledge. But a hive mind might not have those same pressures. If its survival is guaranteed, it may not seek anything beyond what it already has. Imagine a civilization that covers an entire planet, its intelligence shared among trillions of small, connected units. It doesn't think in terms of individuals, but as a vast, single entity. It doesn't feel boredom or loneliness. It doesn't need adventure or discovery to stay engaged. It simply exists, solving its own problems in perfect harmony. To us, this might seem strange, even unsettling. But for the swarm, it would be the only way to live. Now, let's say this swarm intelligence reaches a high level of technology. It could master energy, reshape its environment, and create advanced tools. It might even develop space travel. But then comes the question, why would it use that technology to leave its world? For humans, exploration is driven by risk and reward. We leave Earth because we face limits, finite resources, potential disasters, and the need for expansion. But if a swarm intelligence had perfect control over its environment, it might never face these pressures. Its world could be stable for millions of years, with no reason to change. Even if a swarm intelligence could expand to other planets, it might not see a need. Colonization makes sense for species that need to spread to survive. But a hive mind that already functions perfectly might view expansion as unnecessary. Instead of reaching outward, it might turn inward, focusing on refining its own existence rather than seeking new frontiers. Some might argue that a civilization like this would still be curious about the universe. But curiosity, as we understand it, is a trait of individual minds. It comes from the unknown being a source of excitement, of new possibilities. A swarm intelligence wouldn't experience curiosity in the same way. If its knowledge grew collectively, there would be no individuals pushing for discovery. The whole system would either see value in exploration or ignore it completely. Even communication with other species could be unimportant to a swarm intelligence. Humans reach out because we are social and competitive. We want to know if we're alone, if there's someone else to learn from, trade with, or even fear. But a hive mind wouldn't have the same emotional drive. If it didn't see a clear benefit to making contact, it might never send signals or respond to ours. There's another possibility to consider. What if a swarm intelligence exists, but we simply can't recognize it? If an alien species doesn't act like us, we might not even know it's there. Its technology could be invisible to us, its signals unreadable, its very existence beyond what we expect. We look for radio waves, spacecraft, and megastructures, signs of intelligence that mirror our own. But what if intelligence can take forms we can't even imagine? A swarm intelligence might exist as a network of microscopic machines spread across an entire planet. It might live in extreme environments, inside gas giants, under the ice of distant moons, or even in the vacuum of space itself. It might have no need for metal ships or towering cities. Its way of thinking could be so alien that we wouldn't even recognize it as a civilization. If this is true, then the universe might be filled with life, but not in a way that we can detect. We assume that intelligent species must either explore or communicate. But what if they are simply content where they are? What if the very nature of their intelligence makes space exploration irrelevant to them? This idea changes how we think about the search for extraterrestrial life. Instead of assuming that advanced civilizations must be reaching out, we have to consider that some may have no reason to. They may exist in ways that don't leave obvious traces. They may not want to communicate, not out of hostility, but because they never developed the desire to. In the end, our view of intelligence is shaped by our own experience. We assume that progress means expansion, that curiosity is universal, and that communication is inevitable. But intelligence doesn't have to follow our rules. A swarm intelligence could exist, fully aware of the universe, yet never reaching out, never leaving its home, and never seeing a reason to. And if that's the case, we may never know they are there. Imagine a civilization reaching a point where it no longer advances. It has mastered its environment, developed incredible technology, and eliminated most challenges. At first, progress was rapid: fire, agriculture, industry, space travel. But then, the momentum slowed. Eventually, it stopped. This idea suggests that most alien civilizations may reach a peak and never move beyond it. They don't disappear, but they also don't expand across the stars. They exist in a steady state, comfortable but unchanging. Consider Earth's history. Humans once saw rapid breakthroughs: steam engines, electricity, spaceflight. But today, major leaps are less common. Advances in physics, medicine, and engineering continue, but they build on existing knowledge rather than shattering old paradigms. If our civilization continues in this pattern, we might reach a point where we no longer push forward in meaningful ways. Now, apply this idea to alien civilizations. A species might develop advanced computers, fusion energy, and space habitats. It might even terraform planets. But once it achieves a stable, self-sustaining society, what would drive further progress? If resources are abundant and every need is met, there may be no motivation to expand. Growth often comes from necessity. If a civilization solves its problems, it may stop seeking new challenges. Consider an alien race that has harnessed renewable energy perfectly. They have AI managing everything, eliminating hunger, disease, and manual labor. They live in vast, comfortable cities, or perhaps underground, safe from cosmic radiation. They have no wars because their needs are met. They have no pollution because they perfected energy use long ago. In this state, what would push them to build interstellar ships or colonize distant planets? They may see no reason to venture beyond their home system. There's also the issue of diminishing returns. In science, new discoveries often require more effort than past breakthroughs. The first radio signals were easy. The first nuclear reactor was simple compared to today's energy research. The Large Hadron Collider took decades to build and cost billions, all to study particles that have little impact on daily life. If an alien society reaches a point where research is too expensive or progress is too slow, they may decide it's not worth it. They may have the ability to build warp drives, but lack the incentive. Think about technology in your own life. A smartphone from 10 years ago could call, text, and browse the internet. A new phone today does the same things, but slightly faster with a better camera. The core function hasn't changed much. If this pattern continues across an entire civilization, its advancements may become minor refinements rather than leaps forward. Cultural stagnation could play a role as well. A species that reaches a stable society may shift its focus from innovation to tradition. If every citizen enjoys a perfect life, why change anything? On Earth, some civilizations remained unchanged for thousands of years. Ancient Egypt had the same basic government, writing, and architecture for over 3,000 years. China's core culture persisted for millennia. If an alien society found a way of life that worked perfectly, it might never see a reason to alter it. There's also the possibility that technological stagnation happens by design. A civilization might deliberately limit its own progress to avoid risks. On Earth, nuclear weapons showed that powerful technology can also be dangerous. If aliens reached a point where new discoveries posed more risks than benefits, they might decide to stop. An AI superintelligence might conclude that expanding into space is unnecessary. A governing body might enforce strict regulations to prevent disruptive innovations. Over time, progress might grind to a halt. Another factor is lifespan. If an alien species has a long lifespan, its motivation to innovate might decrease. Humans often push forward because lifetimes are short and people want to leave a mark. But what if a species lived for thousands or millions of years? Would they feel the same urgency? If an alien scientist knew they had eternity to explore a problem, they might take their time, centuries or millennia, before making breakthroughs. This could slow progress to a crawl. Biological needs could also play a role. If an alien species evolved to be perfectly adapted to its homeworld, it might see no reason to leave. Humans have a strong drive to explore, but that's not universal. Some animals never leave their territories. Some people are content staying in the same town their whole lives. If an intelligent species evolved with little curiosity, it might never push beyond its immediate surroundings. There's also the possibility that once a civilization reaches a certain level, it simply stops needing anything new. Imagine a society that has solved every problem. Food, energy, and shelter are unlimited. Health is perfect. Entertainment is endless. Work is unnecessary. At that point, what would push them forward? They might live in virtual realities, lost in perfect simulations. They might meditate for centuries, uninterested in physical expansion. They might see space travel as crude and unnecessary when they can explore digital worlds without risk. Some argue that intelligence leads to expansion by default. If a civilization can spread, it will. But this assumes expansion is always desirable. On Earth, some groups choose isolation over growth. Some societies reject technology in favor of simpler lives. If an alien race reached a point where it could expand but saw no benefit, it might choose to stay where it is. It might view the stars as dangerous or unnecessary. The result is a universe full of civilizations that never leave their planets or home systems. They exist in a steady state, thriving but not advancing. This could explain why we don't see evidence of aliens. They're out there, but they aren't expanding, colonizing, or sending signals. They may have reached a point where they simply don't need to. If this is true, it changes how we think about the search for extraterrestrial life. Instead of expecting a galaxy filled with explorers, we might find ancient civilizations that have been the same for millions of years. We might discover worlds with vast cities but no spacecraft, or planets where alien AI maintains society while the biological species has retreated into digital worlds. The universe might not be empty. It might be full of life that has chosen to stop moving forward. This raises questions about humanity's future. Will we continue to advance indefinitely, or will we also reach a plateau? If technology ever reaches a point where life is perfect, will we still seek more, or will we become like the civilizations we search for, present but silent? Imagine looking up at the night sky, wondering if someone or something is out there. The universe is vast, filled with billions of galaxies, each containing billions of stars and planets. The numbers suggest that intelligent life should exist elsewhere. But what if it does, and we simply can't recognize it? What if alien life is so different from anything we know that we wouldn't even understand it if we saw it? This is the cosmic horror paradox, the idea that extraterrestrial beings might exist, but are so foreign to us that they remain beyond our comprehension. Humans have a tendency to assume that alien life will be, in some way, similar to us. Science fiction movies show aliens with humanoid forms, 2 arms, 2 legs, and a head with eyes. Even when stories depict them as monstrous or insect-like, they still resemble life on Earth. But this assumption is based on our own experiences. The life we know is based on carbon, breathes oxygen, and depends on liquid water. It has evolved under the gravity and atmospheric conditions of Earth. There is no reason to believe that intelligent life elsewhere would have the same characteristics. Imagine an alien species that doesn't use sound to communicate. They might transmit information through electromagnetic waves, similar to how our radios work, but directly from their bodies. If they visited Earth, they might stand right in front of us, broadcasting messages, while we remain unaware because we lack the ability to perceive them. In the same way, if they saw us speaking with our mouths, they might not even recognize it as communication. Consider another possibility. What if an alien species evolved in an environment where time moves at a different rate? Imagine beings that live for millions of years, experiencing time so slowly that what we perceive as a conversation lasting minutes would seem to them like random bursts of activity spread over centuries. If they attempted to communicate, we might not detect their messages because they arrive too slowly for us to notice. To them, our lives might pass in an instant, like a firefly blinking and disappearing before they even recognize it existed. There is also the possibility that alien intelligence itself is something we cannot grasp. On Earth, intelligence is often linked to problem-solving, tool use, and communication. But what if there are other forms of intelligence that don't resemble these traits? A vast network of organisms might function as a single consciousness spread over an entire planet. Each individual unit might be simple, but together they form a thinking entity. Such a life form might not have a concept of individuality or speech. It may not even have a reason to travel beyond its world, because it already spans an entire ecosystem. If we encountered such beings, we might not even realize they are alive. Some scientists have considered the idea that life could be based on elements other than carbon. Silicon, for example, shares some chemical properties with carbon and could form complex molecules. If an alien species evolved using silicon instead of carbon, their bodies and thought processes might be entirely different from ours. Their perception of the universe could be something we can't even imagine. They might not see light the way we do, or they might not experience emotions in any way that makes sense to us. If they have no concept of individuality, time, or self-awareness in the way we understand them, communication might be impossible. Even more extreme is the idea that alien life might not be biological at all. Humans assume intelligence comes from a living organism, but what if it emerges from something else? A cloud of charged particles moving in a magnetic field could form patterns that store and process information. A civilization like this might not have physical bodies, homes, or technology in any form we recognize. If they exist in the upper layers of gas giant planets, floating in storms and shifting with the winds, we would never see them with our telescopes. Even if we did, we might mistake them for natural phenomena rather than living entities. Then there is the idea that intelligence might exist on a scale too large or too small for us to notice. We think of life as something roughly our size, organisms we can observe with our eyes or at least with microscopes. But what if intelligent life operates at a subatomic level, forming networks in quantum fields? We could never interact with such beings, and they would never perceive us in return. Likewise, what if an entire galaxy behaves as a single organism? The motion of stars and planets might not be random, but part of some grand, conscious system. In that case, we would be like bacteria living inside a vast creature, too insignificant to be noticed. Even if alien civilizations are technological, they might be so advanced that we wouldn't recognize their technology as artificial. A sufficiently advanced civilization could construct planets, alter stars, or even manipulate space-time itself. If their methods are beyond our understanding, we might not see their creations as artificial at all. To an ant, a highway is an incomprehensible feature of the environment. To us, a galaxy that has been reshaped by an alien species might look like nothing more than a naturally occurring structure. Another unsettling possibility is that aliens might have no interest in us at all. Humans explore space because we are driven by curiosity, but we don't know if all intelligent life would share that trait. A civilization that has achieved everything it needs might have no reason to expand beyond its home. If they exist, they could be out there, aware of us, but uninterested. We might reach out to them, but they may see no reason to respond. There is also the chance that they are avoiding us deliberately. If they see us as too primitive, they might consider us unworthy of contact. They could have ethical rules against interfering with less advanced species. Or, worse, they could see us the way we see insects: irrelevant, unimportant, and beneath notice. The most unsettling thought is that we might already be surrounded by alien intelligence and simply lack the ability to perceive it. If we only expect to find life that resembles us, we might miss entirely different forms of existence. The universe could be teeming with intelligence, but if it operates on principles beyond our comprehension, we will never know it. This is the cosmic horror paradox, the fear that not only are we not alone in the universe, but that we may never be able to understand those who share it with us. It is not a question of distance or technology, but of fundamental differences so vast that communication is impossible. The universe may not be silent at all. It may simply be speaking in a language we will never understand. Imagine standing on a quiet beach at night, looking out over the vast ocean. The waves roll in, steady and endless, but beneath that surface, there is an entire world. Deep down, where no sunlight reaches, life exists in ways that seem almost impossible. Giant squid drift through the dark, bioluminescent creatures light up like stars, and ancient fish move silently, unaware of the world above. Scientists have explored only a small fraction of these depths, even though they cover most of our planet. This should make us think. If so much life exists right here on Earth, hidden in plain sight, what does that say about the universe? Maybe the same thing is happening on a much larger scale. When people think about extraterrestrial life, they often picture something obvious. They imagine massive alien ships hovering over cities or radio signals beaming in from distant planets. But if Earth teaches us anything, it's that life doesn't always announce itself. It can thrive in places we least expect. The deep ocean is proof. For centuries, humans believed nothing could survive in the deepest parts of the sea. The pressure is crushing, the temperature is near freezing, and there is no sunlight. By all logic, it should be lifeless. And yet, when scientists finally sent cameras into the abyss, they found ecosystems teeming with creatures that had adapted in ways no one predicted. The same assumption happens with space. People often think of it as empty, cold, and silent. But emptiness is a matter of perspective. The deep ocean seems empty until you look closely. What if space works the same way? Maybe alien life is common, but we just aren't looking in the right way. Our methods rely on detecting signals or seeing physical structures, but what if intelligent life exists in a form we don't recognize? If an alien species evolved under completely different conditions, their way of communicating, or even existing, might be beyond our understanding. Think about the creatures in the deep ocean. Many produce their own light. If they tried to study life on the surface, they might assume that without bioluminescence, nothing could survive. They wouldn't know about sunlight or vision as we experience it. In the same way, humans might be searching for alien life using assumptions that don't apply. We listen for radio signals because that's how we communicate over long distances. But an advanced civilization might use a different method, one that doesn't leave a trace we can detect. There's also the possibility that alien life prefers isolation. Deep-sea creatures don't interact with the world above. They have adapted to a specific environment and have no reason to leave. A similar principle could apply to extraterrestrial civilizations. If they exist in a stable, self-sufficient state, why would they need to explore? Just because humans are driven to expand and discover doesn't mean all intelligent life shares that instinct. Some civilizations might be perfectly content staying where they are, never reaching out. Another problem is scale. The ocean is vast, but the universe is beyond comprehension. Even if intelligent life is out there, it could be so far away that we'll never cross paths. Deep-sea explorers can spend years searching for a single new species. Now imagine trying to do that across light years. The odds of finding alien life might be slim, not because it doesn't exist, but because it's too spread out. If deep-sea life only revealed itself once we developed the right tools, maybe the same thing needs to happen for space. Our current technology might not be enough. Consider another perspective. Some of the strangest creatures on Earth live in hydrothermal vent communities. These are places on the ocean floor where hot, mineral-rich water pours out from cracks in the Earth's crust. No sunlight reaches these depths, yet entire ecosystems thrive, fueled by bacteria that convert chemicals into energy. This discovery changed how scientists think about life. Before, they believed all life needed sunlight. Now they know that's not true. If alien life exists, it could be using energy sources we haven't even imagined. One of the most likely places to find extraterrestrial life is Europa, a moon of Jupiter. Beneath its icy surface, scientists believe there is a vast ocean, possibly larger than all of Earth's combined. If life exists there, it would be living in complete darkness under extreme conditions, just like deep-sea creatures here. The same could be true for Enceladus, a moon of Saturn, which also has a subsurface ocean. The more we learn about extreme environments on Earth, the more we realize that life is adaptable. If it can exist in the deep ocean, it might exist in deep space. Another possibility is that intelligent alien life is already here, but we don't recognize it. There could be a form of life so different from our own that we overlook it entirely. Some scientists have suggested that extraterrestrial life might exist as plasma-based entities or in forms that do not rely on carbon chemistry. If true, we could be surrounded by life and never know it. Deep-sea creatures live in our own oceans, yet most people will never see them. The same thing could be happening on a cosmic scale. Humans often assume that if aliens exist, they would want to communicate, but communication depends on shared experiences. Deep-sea fish have no concept of the surface world, so they have no reason to reach out. If extraterrestrial life is vastly different from us, it might not even consider us worth noticing. A species with a completely different perception of time might not communicate in ways we understand. They could be sending messages that take thousands of years to arrive, or their entire civilization might exist on a timescale that makes interaction impossible. There's also the question of intelligence. People often think of intelligence in human terms: language, technology, problem solving. But intelligence comes in many forms. Octopuses are incredibly smart, yet they don't build cities or use radio signals. An advanced alien species might not leave the kind of technological traces we expect. If their intelligence took a different path, they could be thriving in a way that doesn't resemble anything we know. The deep ocean reminds us that life can exist in places we once thought impossible. It also shows us that just because we don't see something doesn't mean it isn't there. If we apply this thinking to space, it changes how we view the search for extraterrestrial life. Instead of expecting obvious signs, we should consider the possibility that life exists in ways we haven't imagined. Maybe the universe is teeming with life, hidden beneath cosmic oceans, just like the creatures in our own seas. We just haven't found the right way to see it yet. Imagine a galaxy where one civilization has already risen to supreme dominance. They have explored the stars, expanded their reach, and established control over the flow of information. If this is true, it could explain why we hear nothing from space. The silence isn't natural, it's enforced. A supercivilization at this level wouldn't need to conquer planets in the way human empires once did. They wouldn't need resources, at least not in the way we understand them. By the time a species reaches such an advanced state, they have likely mastered energy, matter, and computation to a level we can barely comprehend. Their power would be vast, but it wouldn't look like an empire from science fiction. Instead, it would be subtle, like an invisible force shaping the universe while remaining undetected. One possibility is that they act as a filter, deciding which civilizations are allowed to expand and which must remain silent. They may have already determined that open communication between young civilizations is too dangerous. Maybe they once let life spread freely, but it led to destruction. They could have seen wars between emerging species, conflicts fueled by misunderstandings, or worse, rogue civilizations developing technology that threatened everything. If this happened even once, they might have put a system in place to prevent it from happening again. If they exist, their methods wouldn't be obvious. A supercivilization would not announce itself or rule through fear. It would stay in the background, ensuring that no species reached a point where they could challenge its dominance. It might do this in ways we can't recognize. Perhaps it controls technology at a fundamental level. Advanced civilizations might rely on physics that seems magical to us. If this supercivilization has already mastered those laws, it could control how others develop them. Every time a young species reaches a certain point, it could intervene, preventing further progress. It could place limits on artificial intelligence, quantum computing, or faster-than-light travel without anyone realizing they've been stopped. Scientists would run into barriers they couldn't overcome, and they wouldn't know why. They would assume they had reached the natural limits of knowledge. Another way it might enforce silence is through direct intervention. If a species begins broadcasting signals into space, this civilization could intercept and block them. It could erase transmissions before they ever reach another world. If a species becomes too ambitious, trying to expand beyond its home system, it might disappear. From our perspective, it would seem like a natural disaster, an accident, or a simple failure to thrive. But in reality, it could be deliberate. This would explain why we don't see megastructures like Dyson spheres or massive interstellar projects. If an advanced civilization tried to build such things, they might be stopped before they could finish. The silence of the universe would not be the absence of life, but the presence of control. This also raises a troubling possibility. What if we are already being watched? If such a civilization exists, it would be aware of us. It would have detected our radio signals, our space probes, and our growing knowledge of the cosmos. The fact that we are still here suggests one of two things. Either we are not yet worth the effort of stopping, or we are already being subtly guided. It's possible that this control is not malicious. A supercivilization might believe it is acting in the best interests of the universe. From its perspective, young civilizations like ours are reckless and unprepared. We expand without understanding the consequences. We reach for knowledge without considering the risks. If left unchecked, we might create something dangerous. An artificial intelligence that spirals out of control, a technology that destabilizes space itself, or a weapon that threatens not just planets but entire star systems. A civilization that has survived long enough to dominate the galaxy would likely have seen these dangers before. It may have watched others destroy themselves and decided that interference was necessary. If it allows any species to rise to its level, it risks competition, and competition at this scale could mean destruction. So it maintains control, ensuring that no one else can reach its level. Some might argue that this sounds too much like human history projected onto the universe. But history has patterns. When a dominant power controls a region, it often enforces stability by limiting the growth of potential rivals. Empires on Earth have done this through military force, economic control, or political influence. A supercivilization would do it in ways we can't detect. It wouldn't need war or force. It could simply ensure that no species ever reaches the point of true interstellar expansion. One way to test this idea is to look for civilizations that should exist but don't. We expect to find remnants of past empires, abandoned megastructures, or at least evidence of failed attempts at interstellar travel. Yet we find nothing. Every telescope we point at the stars shows a quiet sky. If intelligent life is common, we should see traces of those who came before us. Their ruins should be visible, their failed projects scattered across the galaxy. Instead, we see a void. The simplest explanation is that something prevents civilizations from leaving evidence behind. If they self-destruct, their remains should still be detectable. But if they are removed, if something deliberately erases them, then it makes sense that we see nothing. There is another unsettling possibility. What if this civilization doesn't just control technology and expansion, but also thought itself? It may not need to intervene physically at all. It could simply shape the way young species think. Through subtle influences, it could guide cultures away from dangerous ideas. It might ensure that certain discoveries never happen, that certain lines of inquiry are never pursued. If it has been watching us, it could already be influencing the way we develop. Consider how often we imagine alien life as distant, unreachable, or impossible to contact. Maybe this idea has been subtly reinforced, nudging us away from the truth. Maybe the reason we haven't found aliens is that we have been conditioned not to look in the right way. This might explain why some civilizations, even if they do exist, never call out. If they have realized what we have not, they might choose to stay quiet. They might understand that speaking up is dangerous, that drawing attention leads to intervention. If every civilization that reaches a certain point learns this lesson, they all go silent. Not because they are alone, but because they know they are not. If this is true, then our search for alien life is not just a quest for knowledge, it is a test. At some point, we may reach a level where we are noticed if we haven't been already. When that happens, we will learn whether this super civilization allows new players to enter the game or whether it enforces the silence forever. Imagine a universe teeming with life. Planets orbit distant stars, and some of them host organisms. These creatures thrive, evolve, and develop intelligence in some form. But they never look up. They never wonder about the stars. They don't build telescopes. They don't send signals. They don't even think to ask if they are alone. This is the consciousness gap. When we think about intelligent life, we assume curiosity comes with it. We assume that once a species gains the ability to think and solve problems, it will naturally wonder about its place in the cosmos. But what if that isn't true? What if most intelligent species lack the drive to explore or communicate? Consider an octopus. It's a brilliant animal by Earth standards. It can solve puzzles, escape enclosures, and even recognize human faces. Yet, despite its intelligence, it has no interest in astronomy. It doesn't look at the moon and wonder what's beyond. Its intelligence helps it survive, not question its existence. Now, scale that up. Imagine a civilization full of creatures just as intelligent as humans, maybe even more so. They build tools, form societies, and advance technologically, but they never look beyond their own world. The reason might be simple. Intelligence evolves as a survival tool. It helps a species solve problems, avoid predators, and find food. But once a species reaches a stable point, where it no longer struggles for survival, it may stop innovating. Humans continue to develop technology because of competition, scarcity, and an endless drive to explore. But if another species never developed that drive, it might remain forever content with its immediate surroundings. Now picture a world covered in thick jungle. A species of intelligent tree dwellers builds vast wooden cities in the branches. They live in harmony with their environment. They have no need for industry, no reason to develop metal tools, and no motivation to look beyond their canopy. They have a complete and satisfying existence. They communicate with each other, develop culture, even have art, but they never think about space travel because it simply doesn't occur to them. Even on Earth, humans are an outlier. Most animals don't exhibit curiosity about the broader universe. Dolphins are highly intelligent, but they don't attempt to leave the ocean. Crows can solve complex problems, but they don't build observatories. Intelligence doesn't always lead to exploration. And if humans are unique in their curiosity, it might explain why we haven't heard from anyone else. Some argue that technological advancement inevitably leads to space exploration. That assumption might be wrong. A civilization could develop advanced tools for managing its own world while never looking outward. If it has everything it needs, food, energy, stability, it may never reach beyond its home planet. Why build spacecraft when there's no desire to leave? Why send messages if there's no curiosity about what's out there? There's also the question of self-awareness. Humans reflect on their existence. We ask deep questions about life, meaning, and the nature of reality. But self-awareness is not a given. Some intelligent species might function perfectly without it. They might solve problems, create infrastructure, and manage complex social structures without ever questioning their own consciousness. Consider a highly advanced insect species. It builds vast colonies, constructs cities, and even harnesses energy from its sun. It has intelligence, but it operates as a hive mind. Individual members don't question their place in the universe. They simply perform their roles. They don't feel separate from their society, and they don't wonder about existence. To them, communication beyond their own world would be pointless. If most intelligent species lack self-awareness or curiosity, it changes how we think about extraterrestrial life. The universe could be full of civilizations that never seek contact. They might be everywhere, but they have no reason to reach out. Some might not even recognize the concept of other intelligent beings. Imagine coming across an ant colony while hiking. You see thousands of ants working together, constructing tunnels, gathering food. You know they are alive. You know they are intelligent in their own way. But they don't acknowledge you. They don't try to communicate. They don't even register your presence. To them, you are not part of their world. Now, what if humanity is in the same position? What if advanced civilizations exist, but they see us the way we see ants? irrelevant to their existence. This idea challenges the way we search for alien life. We listen for radio signals, scan for technological signs, and assume other species will do the same. But if most intelligent life lacks curiosity, they won't send signals. They won't build beacons. They won't try to find us because they don't care to. Even if a civilization develops space travel, it might never leave its home system. A species could master energy production, medical science, and artificial intelligence without ever setting foot on another planet. If it sees no reason to expand, it won't. It might explore its own solar system out of practicality, mining asteroids, collecting resources, but never venture further. This could explain why we haven't detected alien civilizations. They could be everywhere, but they aren't looking for us. They aren't building massive structures we can see. They aren't sending out signals. Their intelligence serves their needs, nothing more. It's possible that intelligence exists on a spectrum. On one end, you have species that solve problems instinctively but never reflect on them. On the other, you have beings who question everything. Humans might be rare in their relentless curiosity. Most species could be content to exist without seeking answers beyond their immediate environment. If that's the case, the universe might always feel silent, even if it's full of life. The problem isn't that life is rare. The problem is that most life doesn't ask the questions we do. It doesn't reach out, and it doesn't try to find others. For all we know, there could be an alien civilization orbiting a nearby star, completely unaware that we exist. Not because they lack intelligence, but because they lack the desire to know. And if that's true, then the greatest barrier to contact isn't distance or technology. It's the simple fact that most minds may not work like ours. Life as we know it depends on carbon. Every creature on Earth, from the smallest bacteria to the largest whale, follows this pattern. Scientists assume that any alien life will also use carbon because it forms complex molecules that support life. But what if life doesn't need carbon? What if something entirely different can think, evolve, and communicate? Some scientists believe that plasma life forms, beings made of energy, not matter, could exist in the universe. If so, they might be nothing like us. Plasma is a strange state of matter. It isn't a solid, liquid, or gas. It forms when gas gets so hot that its atoms break apart, releasing charged particles. We see plasma in stars, lightning, and neon lights. It behaves differently from regular matter. It can change shape, move in ways that don't seem natural, and even form structures that look organized. Some researchers think plasma could support life. If that's true, then alien life might exist in places we wouldn't expect, like the upper layers of gas giants, inside stars, or even in deep space. Imagine an alien intelligence that doesn't have a body in the way we think of one. It has no bones, no skin, no fixed shape. Instead, it exists as a pattern of energy inside a plasma cloud. It can expand or shrink, stretch or twist. It might communicate by changing its light patterns or shifting its electromagnetic field. It doesn't need water, oxygen, or food. Instead, it draws energy from the environment. This kind of life would be invisible to most of our tools. A radio telescope scanning the sky might pick up strange pulses and dismiss them as noise, when in fact they could be signals from a plasma-based intelligence. The biggest challenge in imagining plasma life is understanding how it could think. Our brains use electrical signals to process information, but they need a solid structure: neurons, synapses, and chemicals. A plasma life form would need a way to store and process data without these physical parts. Some physicists suggest that charged particles in plasma can organize themselves into complex patterns. These patterns can move, shift, and even react to their surroundings. If plasma could hold stable patterns for long enough, they might act like a memory or a brain. Over time, these structures could evolve, forming something that can learn and adapt. Earth has provided hints that organized plasma structures might exist. Scientists have seen glowing, moving shapes in lightning storms that seem to last longer than they should. Some lab experiments have created tiny plasma blobs that act almost like living cells, forming and breaking apart in unexpected ways. These don't prove that plasma life is real, but they show that plasma can behave in ways we don't fully understand. If plasma life exists, it changes how we think about aliens. We tend to look for planets like Earth, rocky worlds with water and air. But a plasma-based life form wouldn't need a planet at all. It could float in space, feeding on energy from stars or cosmic radiation. It might live in the hot, dense layers of Jupiter or Saturn, hidden deep inside storms. It could even exist inside stars themselves, forming networks of intelligence that last for millions of years. This could explain why we haven't found aliens yet. We expect them to use radio waves, send spaceships, or leave physical evidence. But plasma life wouldn't need technology like ours. It might not build cities or spaceships. It might not even recognize physical objects as important. Instead, it could exist in a completely different way, one that we have no way of detecting yet. Some science fiction writers have explored these ideas. Stories about beings made of pure energy often describe creatures that can pass through walls, control electricity, or move instantly from one place to another. While these ideas stretch what physics allows, they highlight the possibilities of life beyond what we know. If plasma life forms exist, they could be intelligent in ways we can't understand. They might think much faster than us, processing information at the speed of light. Or they might think so slowly that a single thought takes thousands of years. If we ever make contact with plasma life, communication could be a challenge. We rely on sound and light, but they might use magnetic fields or electrical pulses. We might see them as flashes of lightning or strange glowing orbs. They might not recognize us as alive at all, since we are solid and slow-moving. If they live inside stars, they would never experience solid objects, and the idea of a creature made of flesh might seem impossible to them. One of the most unsettling possibilities is that we have already encountered plasma life and didn't realize it. Some UFO reports describe glowing objects that change shape or move in ways that seem impossible. Most of these sightings have natural explanations: aircraft, weather phenomena, or optical illusions. But if even a small number of these reports describe real plasma beings, then we might be sharing the universe with something truly alien. If plasma life is real, it forces us to rethink what life means. We define life by what we see on Earth: cells, DNA, reproduction, and metabolism. But if intelligence can exist as patterns of energy, then the universe might be full of beings we have never noticed. They wouldn't need planets, water, or even matter. They could exist anywhere there is energy. The dark spaces between stars, the hearts of supernovae, or even the swirling storms of gas giants could all be home to creatures beyond our imagination. Right now, plasma life is just a theory. We don't have proof, and we don't know how to test for it. But science has been wrong before. People once thought life could only exist on land, until we discovered deep-sea creatures living in total darkness. We believed intelligence required hands and tools until we found animals like octopuses that show problem-solving skills without bones or speech. The idea that life can exist in forms we haven't yet recognized isn't far-fetched. It's just waiting for us to find the right way to look. Aliens might be looking for us, just like we are looking for them. This idea flips the Fermi Paradox on its head. Instead of us wondering why they haven't contacted us, they might be wondering why we haven't contacted them. If intelligent life is rare, they could be searching, waiting, or even giving up hope that anyone else is out there. Imagine an advanced civilization developing on a planet orbiting a distant star. Over thousands or even millions of years, they create technology, build cities, and eventually develop space travel. They send probes to their neighboring planets, but they don't find anything. They turn their telescopes to the sky and begin scanning for signals. At first, they assume the galaxy must be full of life. There are billions of stars and countless planets. Surely, someone else must be out there. They listen, they search, but they hear nothing. At some point, they might start asking the same question we do. If intelligent life is common, why is no one responding? They may even build massive space telescopes far beyond our capabilities, searching the sky for signs of civilizations. They scan radio waves, look for artificial light from distant planets, and search for heat signatures from advanced technology. Nothing comes back. This might lead them to a simple conclusion: intelligent life is incredibly rare. Maybe they think they are the only ones. They might even believe that they are the first intelligent species to emerge in the universe. If they hold that belief, they may stop searching altogether. Why waste resources on something that doesn't exist? Now, let's consider another possibility. Maybe they believe intelligent life exists, but that it is spread so thin across the galaxy that civilizations almost never cross paths. The universe is vast beyond comprehension. Even if intelligent life appears on 1,000,000 planets, those civilizations could be so far apart that they never hear from each other. By the time one species develops space travel and starts searching, the others may have already gone extinct. Civilizations might rise and fall like waves on a beach, never existing at the same time. A species that reaches an advanced stage of development might have to accept that reality. They could come to the conclusion that intelligent life exists, but communication is nearly impossible. The distances are too great, the timescales too long. If they send a message, it might take thousands of years to arrive at another inhabited planet. By the time the message reaches its destination, the civilization that sent it might be gone. If they receive a message, the sender could already be extinct. This could lead to a sense of cosmic loneliness. A civilization might put effort into searching for others, but after centuries of silence, they may give up. They may turn inward, focusing on their own survival rather than trying to reach out. If they believe intelligent life is so rare that the odds of contact are close to zero, they may stop looking altogether. There's also another possibility. Maybe they assume we exist but think we are not advanced enough to respond. When we look for intelligent life, we assume aliens will be more advanced than us. We imagine civilizations with giant space stations, faster than light travel, or immense energy collecting structures around stars. But what if an alien civilization assumes we are the advanced ones? If they are behind us technologically, they might not even be able to detect our existence. They could be stuck on their own planet, unable to send signals or build telescopes strong enough to see our world. They might be looking at the sky, wondering if there is anyone out there, just as we are. If they believe intelligent civilizations must be rare, they may assume they are the only ones. Now let's go one step further. What if they think we are there, but are deliberately staying silent? If they are advanced enough to consider this possibility, they might believe other civilizations avoid broadcasting signals to protect themselves. If they have theories similar to our dark forest hypothesis, the idea that civilizations stay quiet to avoid attracting hostile forces, they may assume intelligent life is hiding. This could lead them to a difficult decision. If they think other civilizations are staying silent for safety, should they remain silent too? If they believe an unknown danger is out there, calling attention to themselves might be risky. They might avoid sending signals for the same reason they assume others are silent. If every intelligent species follows this logic, then no one sends messages, and the galaxy remains quiet. Let's consider one final scenario. What if they do find signs of life, but dismiss us as uninteresting? Maybe they see Earth, detect its atmosphere, and confirm it has life. But to them, that's not impressive. They might be looking for civilizations that have already mastered space travel or reached a certain level of technological advancement. If they see a planet with a species still in an early stage of development, they may decide it's not worth contacting. This would be similar to how we think about microbes on another planet. If we find bacteria on Mars, it will be an important discovery, but it won't be the same as finding intelligent life. An advanced civilization might see us the same way. They might view us as a primitive species, not ready for communication. If they follow some kind of ethical rule against interfering with less developed civilizations, they may choose to observe us from a distance, but never make contact. In the end, the reverse Fermi Paradox suggests that we are not alone in asking where everyone is. Other civilizations might be out there, thinking the same thing. They could be scanning the sky, wondering why no one is responding. They might be searching, waiting, or even assuming they are the only ones left. If the universe is filled with civilizations that all believe intelligent life is rare, then no one reaches out and the silence continues. This perspective offers a different way to think about our search for extraterrestrial life. Instead of assuming that aliens are avoiding us or that they don't exist, it may be that they are just as uncertain as we are. They may have reached the same conclusions, made the same guesses, and struggled with the same unanswered questions. If that's the case, then the only way to break the cycle is for someone to take the first step. Maybe that's us. If every civilization assumes others are too rare or too far away, then no one makes the first move. But if just one civilization, ours or theirs, decides to send out a clear message, the silence could finally be broken. For now, we keep listening, keep searching, and keep asking the same question they might be asking. Where is everyone? Imagine a civilization so advanced that it no longer needs to fight for resources, struggle for survival, or even remain awake most of the time. Instead, it has perfected the art of hibernation, a long sleep stretching across millennia. This idea, known as the sleeper's hypothesis, suggests that extraterrestrial civilizations may exist, but remain dormant for vast periods, only waking for brief moments before returning to slumber. If true, this could help explain why we see no clear signs of alien life, despite the immense number of planets in the universe. A civilization that has mastered technology would likely reach a point where energy and resources are no longer immediate concerns. Once a society controls its needs completely, it may choose to optimize for long-term survival rather than constant activity. Space is not a friendly place. Cosmic radiation, asteroid impacts, and the slow death of stars make existence a challenge even for the most advanced beings. But what if a civilization could reduce these risks by slowing itself down? Instead of constantly expanding or consuming resources, it could simply wait, preserving its energy and only waking when necessary. The universe operates on a much larger timescale than human life. Stars live for billions of years. Galaxies take millions of years to collide. Compared to that, human civilization has barely lasted a fraction of a cosmic second. If an intelligent species thinks long-term, it might not operate on our timescale at all. What seems like total silence from the cosmos could just be the deep sleep of civilizations that operate on cycles of tens of thousands, even millions of years. Consider a species that has mastered artificial intelligence, biotechnology, and energy conservation. Instead of remaining active, constantly searching for new frontiers, it could create vast hibernation systems that allow it to slow time for itself. Its biological or synthetic minds could enter a controlled sleep, reducing energy needs to almost nothing. Only once every few thousand years would it wake, assess the state of the universe, make adjustments, and then return to sleep. If an advanced species follows this pattern, it would be nearly impossible to detect. Human civilization has only been using radio signals for a little over a century. If aliens wake only once every 10,000 years, there is an extremely low chance that their activity would overlap with the brief window in which we are looking. We could be scanning the sky during one of their long sleep cycles, completely unaware that in just a few centuries or millennia, they will wake, send out signals, or begin traveling once more. This idea also explains why we have not found massive space structures like Dyson spheres, which should be visible if civilizations were constantly growing. Instead of continuously expanding, an ancient civilization might have already built its infrastructure long ago, set up systems to keep it running, and then entered a dormant phase. If its technology is designed to last millions of years, it might have no reason to build anything new for a very long time. A species capable of hibernation might also avoid risk in a way that makes it invisible to us. If it recognizes that being active increases the chance of drawing attention from hostile forces, it could choose long sleep cycles as a survival strategy. In a universe where other civilizations might exist, staying quiet for long periods could be a way to avoid detection. The fewer signals it sends, the lower the chance it will attract unwanted attention. Human history offers small examples of this kind of thinking. In extreme cold or resource-scarce environments, some animals enter hibernation or periods of slowed metabolism to conserve energy. Ancient civilizations sometimes withdrew from expansionist policies, entering long phases of reduced activity to avoid overextension or external threats. Now imagine this principle applied at a galactic scale, with a species so advanced that it no longer needs to interact with the universe constantly. One possibility is that civilizations that do wake up at different times never overlap. If an alien species wakes for only a few hundred years every 10,000 years, and another civilization operates on a different cycle, they might never encounter each other. Each might be scanning the cosmos during its wake period, only to find nothing because every other intelligent life form is still asleep. Another scenario is that a civilization chooses to stay asleep until it detects a specific trigger. Perhaps it has automated systems watching the galaxy, and it only wakes when it detects new intelligence, significant cosmic events, or signals that indicate the presence of another advanced species. If it does not yet see anything of interest, it simply remains asleep. This could mean that humanity is being observed, but not actively engaged. If an alien civilization has monitoring technology far beyond our understanding, it might already know about us, but see no reason to wake yet. If we are still too primitive to be of interest, or if we pose no threat, it could remain dormant, waiting for a future where we become advanced enough to warrant interaction. If civilizations function this way, it creates a very different image of the galaxy. Instead of being a vast, silent void, the universe could be filled with sleeping giants, civilizations that have long surpassed the need for constant activity. They could be spread across different star systems, each in a state of near-permanent hibernation, occasionally waking, making small adjustments, and then returning to sleep. One challenge with this idea is how we could ever detect such civilizations. If they are not broadcasting signals, not building new structures, and not actively exploring, their existence would be almost impossible to confirm. The only signs might come from remnants of their past activity, abandoned megastructures, unusual energy readings, or unexplained anomalies in distant star systems. If we ever find a Dyson sphere or an artificial construct around a star but see no further activity, it might be the relic of a sleeping civilization, waiting for its next wake cycle. It also raises the question of what might eventually wake these beings. Could a galaxy-wide event, such as the emergence of many new intelligent species, trigger a collective awakening? If enough civilizations reach a technological threshold, perhaps the sleepers would all rise at once, ready to interact, explore, or take action in ways we cannot yet predict. For now, the sleepers' hypothesis remains one of many explanations for why the universe appears so empty. It challenges the idea that intelligence must always be restless, always expanding, always seeking. Perhaps the greatest civilizations do not burn brightly, but instead endure through long cycles of sleep and wakefulness, moving to the slow rhythm of the cosmos. If that is the case, then we may be looking at a galaxy full of intelligent life that is simply waiting for the right moment to wake. Imagine a civilization that has reached a point where it can send signals across the galaxy. It has the technology to listen, to observe, and to announce its existence. But it chooses not to. It remains silent, not because it lacks the means, but because speaking up might be dangerous. This is the heart of the anti-communication paradox, the idea that intelligent civilizations deliberately avoid contact because the risks outweigh the benefits. At first, this may seem counterintuitive. When humans developed radio technology, we immediately started broadcasting. We sent signals into space with no concern for who might be listening. The assumption was that if intelligent life was out there, making contact would be beneficial. We imagined peaceful exchanges, shared knowledge, and the possibility of alliances. But this view assumes that other civilizations think the way we do, and that the universe is a safe place. There's no reason to believe either of these things is true. A more cautious civilization would recognize that reaching out carries potential dangers. If they make themselves known, they might attract attention from a species that is not friendly. In human history, whenever a more advanced civilization encountered a less advanced one, the results were often disastrous for the weaker party. Indigenous populations faced conquest, exploitation, or destruction when explorers arrived. If space follows a similar pattern, then a wise civilization would remain silent, rather than risk inviting a stronger unknown force to its doorstep. Another reason for silence is the simple fact that not all civilizations will have the same motives. Some might be explorers, looking for knowledge and cooperation. Others might be expansionists, seeking resources or territory. There's no way to predict which type would respond to a signal. A civilization that broadcasts without thinking could be making a fatal mistake. Even if an advanced species has no intention of harm, They might interfere in ways that are catastrophic simply because they don't understand the consequences for the lesser species. A well-meaning but powerful civilization could cause as much harm as a hostile one. A cautious species might also recognize that the mere act of communication could expose weaknesses. By studying the patterns in a signal, an advanced civilization could determine the sender's level of technology, energy consumption, and even details about their biology. This information could be used against them. Even if the receiving civilization had no hostile intentions, they might share the knowledge with others who do. In a universe where the balance of power is unknown, silence might be the safest strategy. There's also the possibility that civilizations who ignore these risks don't last long. If the universe contains many intelligent species, it's likely that some have made the mistake of broadcasting their presence. If an aggressive species is out there, those civilizations may no longer exist. This would explain why we haven't heard from anyone. The ones who called out were removed, and the ones that survived learned from their example. Imagine a world where a civilization reaches a technological peak. They have mastered energy production, space travel, and artificial intelligence. They expand into their solar system and begin exploring beyond. At some point, they detect an ancient distress signal from another civilization. The message is clear: we are here. We need help. The explorers analyze the transmission and discover that the civilization that sent it vanished thousands of years ago. The signal kept traveling through space, but the people who sent it are long gone. They begin investigating what happened. Their probes scan the ruined world where the signal originated. It's clear the civilization once thrived. Cities stretched across continents, great machines harvested energy from their star, and they had an active presence in space. But now there's nothing. No survivors, no signs of war or environmental collapse, just silence. Their research uncovers a second message, one that was never meant to be found. A warning, buried deep in the remains of their technology: do not speak, do not call out. We were heard. This scenario presents a chilling possibility. What if there are rules in the universe that we don't yet understand? What if there is a pattern, an invisible order, enforced by those who have the power to act? If a civilization reaches a certain threshold and becomes loud enough, they might attract attention from something far more advanced. And if that advanced force believes in keeping order, it might remove those who disrupt the silence. A civilization that recognizes this risk would likely take steps to prevent exposure. They would establish strict communication protocols. Any signals they send would be encrypted or disguised as natural cosmic noise. They would use passive observation rather than active broadcasting. They might even teach their younger generations that seeking contact is reckless, that silence is survival. If the anti-communication paradox is true, it means that the absence of alien contact is not evidence of an empty universe. It could mean the opposite. The galaxy might be teeming with life, but all of it is hiding. Everyone is listening, but no one is speaking, because speaking is dangerous. There is also the possibility that civilizations that do not adopt this strategy inevitably expose themselves and get removed from the equation. A pattern might exist where naive civilizations reach a certain level of development, start broadcasting, and are quickly detected and neutralized by a more advanced force. The ones who survive are the ones who learn to remain silent. Another unsettling implication is that if we do hear a signal, we should be very cautious about responding. If another civilization is broadcasting, there are only a few possibilities. They might be extremely confident in their strength and have no fear of revealing themselves. They might be desperate, taking a final gamble to reach out before they disappear. Or they might be something entirely different, something that wants to attract attention. In any of these cases, responding without knowing the consequences could be a mistake. Humanity has already sent messages into space, hoping to make contact. We have broadcasted radio waves for over a century, leaking our presence into the cosmos. We have sent physical messages on spacecraft, hoping they will one day be found. These actions assume that communication is safe, but if the anti-communication paradox is correct, we may have already made an irreversible mistake. It is possible that more advanced civilizations have detected our signals but have chosen not to respond. they might have rules against interference. Or they might be waiting to see if we learn to stop broadcasting before it's too late. If we suddenly become silent, it could signal that we have matured, that we understand the dangers. If we continue to broadcast recklessly, it might mark us as a species too careless to survive in the larger cosmic ecosystem. The idea of a silent galaxy changes how we think about the search for extraterrestrial intelligence. Instead of asking why we haven't heard from anyone, we should consider whether we should be trying to hear at all. If advanced civilizations are staying quiet for a reason, then perhaps we should be listening to their silence. A universe where everyone is hiding suggests that survival favors those who remain unnoticed. It suggests that danger exists, even if we don't yet understand what form it takes. If we accept the anti-communication paradox, then the absence of contact is not a mystery, it is a warning. The universe is getting bigger every second. Space itself is stretching, pushing galaxies apart. This expansion isn't slowing down, it's speeding up. The faster it goes, the harder it becomes for civilizations to meet. If intelligent life exists somewhere else in the universe, they may never reach us, and we may never reach them. Not because they don't want to, or because they don't exist, but because the laws of physics make it impossible. Imagine two boats on a river. At first, they drift apart slowly. If both have engines, they might still reach each other. But what if the river speeds up? What if it becomes a rushing current? No matter how fast they travel toward each other, the distance between them grows. The universe works the same way. Space isn't a fixed stage where objects move. It's more like an expanding fabric. Every moment, that fabric stretches, increasing the distance between everything. A long time ago, the universe was much smaller. If two intelligent species had developed early enough, they might have met. But as time passed, expansion made that harder. Now, many galaxies are moving away from us faster than the speed of light. That doesn't mean they're breaking a cosmic speed limit. Instead, space itself is expanding so quickly that the light from those galaxies will never reach us. They are disappearing from view. If life exists in those places, we will never know. Even in the parts of the universe we can still see, the problem remains. Let's say there's an advanced civilization 100 million light years away. If they send a message today, it will take 100 million years to reach us. By the time we get it, they may be long gone. Maybe their world fell to disaster. Maybe they moved beyond technology. Maybe they evolved into something else. Communication across such distances isn't just difficult, it's nearly meaningless. A civilization could call out into the void and never know if anyone heard them. Travel makes things even worse. Imagine humans develop a spaceship that moves at near light speed. Even then, reaching another galaxy would take millions of years. If the universe weren't expanding, that might still be possible. But with space itself stretching, a faraway galaxy could remain forever out of reach. No matter how fast we travel, the distance keeps growing. The river carries the boat away faster than the boat can move. There's also a limit to how far we can even see. The observable universe is only a fraction of the whole thing. Beyond what we can observe, space continues indefinitely. We don't know what's out there. If civilizations exist in those distant regions, we will never detect them. The light from their stars will never reach us because the expansion of space is faster than light itself. Those civilizations might as well be in another reality. Some scientists wonder if this means we're trapped. If every intelligent species is locked inside its own cosmic bubble, each civilization is alone, no matter how advanced it becomes. If that's true, then no great galactic empires exist. No vast networks of alien civilizations stretching across the stars. Only islands of life, separated by distances too vast to cross. If we look at our own galaxy, things seem more hopeful. The Milky Way is not expanding fast enough to break apart. The stars within it still move in predictable orbits. If life exists on another planet in our galaxy, the distance might be possible to cross. But even that is a struggle. The closest star system, Proxima Centauri, is over 4 light-years away. With today's technology, a spacecraft would take thousands of years to get there. Even if a civilization mastered faster-than-light travel, a concept that breaks known physics, the problem doesn't go away. The further you try to go, the greater the effect of expansion. At some point, Even the fastest possible ship cannot keep up. If this is true, then every intelligent species faces the same fate. They rise, they explore their local region, and then they stop. Not because they lack curiosity or ability, but because the universe itself denies them. Maybe this is why we see no evidence of aliens. Not because they don't exist, but because they cannot reach us. They may have tried, only to realize that the distances were too great. That realization could be devastating. Imagine a civilization discovering space travel, dreaming of meeting others, only to learn they are forever alone. Some people argue that we might find a way around this. Perhaps there's a loophole we don't understand yet. Maybe we're missing some fundamental law of physics that would allow travel beyond these limits. But based on what we know today, the situation seems unavoidable. The universe expands, and it will keep expanding. In the far future, even the galaxies we see today will disappear from view. They will move so far away that no light from them will ever reach us again. The night sky will grow empty. This raises a final, unsettling thought. If the universe keeps expanding, what happens to us? If intelligent life is doomed to remain isolated, does that mean it has a time limit? A species might explore its own galaxy, but then what? If there is no one to meet, no great civilizations to join, what comes next? Does every intelligent species reach a point where it simply stops? Without the possibility of connection, do they turn inward, focusing only on their own world? Maybe that's why we hear nothing. If civilizations reach a dead end, maybe they stop looking outward. Maybe they find ways to keep themselves entertained, creating virtual worlds or artificial realities. Or maybe they simply fade away, their drive to explore lost over time. If the universe does not allow connection, perhaps life itself loses the need to expand. This idea changes how we think about the search for aliens. We often imagine vast networks of civilizations trading knowledge across the stars. But what if that's impossible? What if every intelligent species is trapped in its own small corner, unable to reach anyone else? If that's the case, then we may never find evidence of extraterrestrial life, not because it isn't there, but because it is locked beyond our reach. The universe is not just big, it is growing faster than anything can travel. Every moment, it carries galaxies further apart, creating an insurmountable distance between worlds. If there are others out there, they are too far to see, too far to hear, and too far to ever meet. If that is true, then every intelligent civilization, no matter how advanced, will always be alone.